Chapter 1256. Dongbua Shuiying was dumbstruck. Most experts would try their best to resist against the illusory realm. Yet this supreme Shi actually took the initiative to let himself enter the illusory realm. He was truly overconfident. But clearly, he suffered from a disadvantage and was forced to use all his strength to break apart the illusory realm. That was why his horrifying aura was slightly emitted. The aura of the Death Destruction clan was originally evil and horrifying. This supreme Shi only had to conceal it and spread it out normally. That was enough to kill all kings. Even emperors and god generals would be forced back or injured. Only those at the level of great emperors could easily resist against the impact of his aura. Shall we enter? Great Emperor North River revealed a joyous look. Many thanks, Supreme Shi. With Monarch Feisue around, I can't stop you even if I wanted to. Supreme Shi said. Go, I'll bring you over. You guys can fly slowly. I wonder how long it would take. Great Emperor North River did not reject. At the same time, he was observing Dongbua Shuiying and Supreme Shi in the dark. He was curious how much Supreme Shi was affected by Monarch Feisue's soul technique. But since he dared to take the initiative to enter the illusory realm, it should not affect him too much by simply resisting against it. Even if I worked together with Monarch Feisue to deal against a Supreme, it would still be slightly taxing. Great Emperor North River thought. But at least it has reduced the gap between me and the Supreme. Furthermore, with Monarch Feisue around, I'm not afraid of being surrounded. It's a pity that Monarch Feisue isn't willing to follow me forever. He had even helped Shamanic Wind once before. Who? Supreme Shi's unseen energy enveloped the surroundings. Great Emperor North River remained protecting Dongbua Shuiying and the 10 god generals. So, they directly tore through the void and arrived at the core of this island. We're here. Supreme Shi's voice sounded. The space before him changed. Dongbua Shuiying looked around him. There was a fiery red lake by his side. The fiery red lake water was emitting a shockingly high temperature that caused the void to distort. There were even many black leaves floating on the surface of this lake. Countless black leaves covered an area of more than 5,000 kilometers. They were revolving in circles. The closer one was to the center, the bigger the black leaves. The core black leaf was a full 100 miles in diameter. The outermost leaf could only allow 3 to 5 ordinary people to stand on it. Apart from the black leaves, there were also purple flowers blooming. At a glance, there were about 100 beautiful flowers. The closer they were to the center, the bigger the blooming purple flowers. The largest purple flower bloomed on the black leaf in the center. That purple flower took up about 1/3 of the area of the black leaf in the center. Phew! The entire lake was filled with black leaves and purple flowers, emitting a formless pressure that made all the experts present feel suffocated. North River. Supreme Shi, who was at the side, smiled and said, The Black Leaf Lake is right here. I won't stop you. You can take as much flower dew as you want. But you should know that Haihu's flower dew isn't that easy to take. Don't worry. I've already made preparations. Great Emperor North River first waved his hand to keep the 10 god generals by his side. He was worried that his subordinates would be attacked by Supreme Shi when he was collecting the flower nectar. As for Dongbua Shuiying, this time, Dongbua Shuiying had brought several avatars with him just in case. Some avatars were kept within the Eden treasure that Great Emperor North River carried with him. Even if the avatars outside were ambushed and destroyed, it would not affect the overall situation. Great Emperor North River and Dongbua Shuiying exchanged glances. Great Emperor, feel free to collect the flower dew. I'll just casually take a look. Dongbua Shuiying was instead observing his surroundings curiously. All right. Great Emperor North River nodded. He then took a step and flew towards the outermost black leaf. After lightly landing on a leaf, he headed towards the nearest violet flower. Dongbua Shuiying watched as Great Emperor North River took out a complex tool and carefully collected the flower dew. After that, he began observing his surroundings. There were many structures in the surroundings. Even this lake was within a huge garden with courtyard walls surrounding it. This time, it is because Monarch Feisue is here. Otherwise, that North River would not have arrived at the Black Leaf Lake. Supreme Sure Fa walked to the side of Dongbo Shuang, chuckling. Monarch Feishue, with your attainments in the Tao of Soul, why are you helping this North River? I believe those great emperors are fighting to befriend you. Even if you don't help North River can't do anything to you. Dongbo Shuang chuckled. He helped Great Emperor North River primarily because he wanted to avoid a war. Naturally, Great Emperor North River had always been polite to him. Great Emperor North River can give me what I want, Dongbo Shuang said before changing the topic. Supreme, why is the suppression of this black leaf lake so frightening? He felt suffocating just by standing by the shore. I can only feel some slight suppression by the shore. Supreme Sure Fa chuckled. If you step on that black leaf and get closer to the center, the suppression will become stronger and more terrifying. Even I can't step on that piece of black leaf at the center. Even Supremes can't go up? Dongbo Shuang was startled. How strong were Supremes? Just by suppressing them, they could prevent Supremes from reaching the centermost leaf. This black leaf lake is related to one of the two terrifying chaotic origin lifeforms that fell in the past. Supreme Sure Fa sighed. They have long fallen. Furthermore, the remnant energy that formed the black leaf lake is something that I can't even get close to. I really wonder how terrifying those two would be if they were still alive. Dongbo Shuang nodded. After all, they could injure Yuan. Even if they were not as strong as Yuan, they should not be too far off. Even though there are more than 100 black leaf flowers, North River's resistance against the suppression is weaker than mine. He should only be able to collect half of the flower due from the black leaf flowers. Furthermore, this half of the black leaf flowers are the smallest. Supreme Sure Fa chuckled. The closer one was to the center, the bigger the flowers. For instance, that violet flower at the center had a diameter of several dozen kilometers. The flower dew it contained was likely more than all the other flowers added together. Can I go up and have a look? Dongbo Shuang said. Of course you can. Supreme Sure Fa chuckled. But you must be careful. You must not touch the lake water. The lake water is blazing hot. And with your strength, you would most likely turn into ashes the moment you touch it. Understood. Dongbo Shuang then flew up towards the outermost black leaf. He is going over too. This monarch Feishue is going over too. Some of the subordinates of Supreme Sure Fa were watching from afar. They were discussing amongst themselves. The majority of them felt indignant. There were not many from the Death Destruction clan who had a good temper. And Great Emperor North River, who was collecting the flower, turned to Dongbo Shuang. He chuckled when he saw that. He transmitted over. Brother Feishue, you must be more careful. He then continued collecting the flower dew. He lightly landed. The tip of his feet stepped on the black leaf. The black leaf was flexible and easily supported him. What a powerful pressure! Dongbo Shuang was not interested in those flower dew. Firstly, he did not need them. Secondly, he did not have any special tools to collect the flower dew. He was curious about the pressure coming from the Black Night Lake. The centermost leaf could prevent even Supremes from going up. That was too powerful. Da-da-da. Dongbo Shuang felt like he was taking a stroll. He casually walked over step by step. After all, there were many leaves covering an area of 5,000 kilometers. Dongbo Shuang walked quite quickly. He was constantly walking past many black leaves. The black leaves beneath his feet were also getting bigger. And that pressure was getting stronger too. What a powerful pressure! Dongbo Shuang sighed inwardly. This pressure directly targeted the soul. As he got closer, it felt like an endless mountain was pressing down on his soul. This is really difficult. Dongbo Shuang was trying his best to walk forward. What? Supreme Sure Fa, who was by the shore, was startled when he saw that. He has walked this far. How could this be? He has unknowingly walked this far. Those experts from the Death Destruction clan were incredibly shocked. How is this possible? Even though he was collecting flower dew, Great Emperor North River was constantly paying attention to his surroundings. When he discovered how far Dongbo Shuang had walked, he could not help but feel startled. He cared too much about the Black Leaf Lake. He had already collected a huge amount of intelligence, and knew that he might not be able to walk this far. Gradually, Dongbo Shuang revealed a strenuous look. But he had already reached the other leaf closest to the centermost leaf. That leaf was 5 kilometers in diameter. Amen. Even though I feel it is difficult, I am just a final distance away from the centermost leaf. Dongbo Ying was incredibly startled. Even though his soul had absorbed a droplet of heart blood from myriad tentacles dragon mother, it was ultimately just a level 2 cosmos god foundation. The heart blood of myriad tentacles dragon mother could only strengthen the soul of this avatar of Dongbo Ying slightly more than ordinary final realm experts. Compared to Supremes, the gap was even greater. But in terms of willpower, Dongbo Ying was much stronger than these Death Destruction clan and natives who relied purely on their bloodline. This was also the advantage of cultivators. Furthermore, when he comprehended the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm killing technique, his soul had undergone a unique transformation. Furthermore, being the undisputed #1 expert in the Tao of Soul, he could easily control his soul energy to form a vast world that could resist against the suppression on his soul. It can't be. Supreme Sure Fa was startled. Unless, even Great Emperor North River, who was collecting the flower, temporarily stopped. He looked at Dongbo Ying. Under their observation, Dongbo Ying did not stop moving. Finally, he stepped onto the centermost and largest black leaf in the entire black leaf lake. Wang. At the moment when Dongbo Ying stepped onto that centermost leaf, that largest black leaf flower also let out a dazzling violet light that shone in all directions. It also shone on the body of Dongbo Ying. Forget it, it seems I have to update 8 chapters tomorrow? I'll risk it tomorrow. At the same time, I'll announce that Dongbo Ying will reach the final realm during the 8 chapters tomorrow. Star. Chapter 1257. That violet-colored black leaf flower, that spanned a few dozen kilometers in diameter, emitted a light that was so dazzling that it intoxicated others. Even Supreme Sure Fa, Great Emperor North River, and other observers were both startled and attracted by it. They looked at that white-robed young man, who had already walked to the centermost black leaf. All of them felt shock, envy, jealousy, disbelief. All sorts of emotions were complex. He could actually go up and walk to the centermost. Even with his identity, Supreme Sure Fa could not help but mutter to himself. The Black Leaf Lake was located on his island. He had tried many times, yet under that terrifying pressure, even his soul could not withstand it. In the end, he could only stop. Who would have thought that after I invited him over for help, he would be the one who reaped the greatest benefits in the end? Great Emperor North River stopped collecting the flower dew. He was the newest Great Emperor, yet he was faintly the strongest amongst all Great Emperors. That was because he worked hard to grab hold of every single opportunity. At this moment, he instinctively understood that the terrifying pressure coming from the centermost black leaf and the mysterious light emitted by the violet-colored flower meant that there was no huge opportunity. He desired for such an opportunity to land in his hands. But he could not even step on the centermost leaf. He was not qualified to compete for it. Much less him. Even Supreme could not step on it. For a moment, everyone was watching with envy, yet they could not compete for it. What is that? What is that? Supreme Sure Fa and the others were suddenly startled. One could see the centermost black leaf flower, emitting a violet light that shone in all directions. Suddenly, many droplets of light flew up. Those droplets of dew could vaguely be seen in midair. Under the illumination of the light, they were refracting light. It's just that within these dew droplets, there was a faint figure of a strange creature. These dew droplets seemed to have been attracted by an unseen force. They flew towards Dongbo Ying and fused into his body. Is it the flower dew? The flower dew of the black leaf flower? No, it seems slightly different. Supreme Sure Fa, Great Emperor North River, and the others could only make wild guesses as they watched. When Dongbo Ying walked to the center of the black leaf, the flower emitted a blinding purple light. The dewdrop that reflected the light flew over, and inside it, one could vaguely see the silhouette of a strange creature. Even though Dongbo Ying knew that these dew droplets were extraordinary, he could not help but desire them. Furthermore, this was just a clone, so Dongbo Ying did not dodge at all. He allowed the dew droplets to land on his body and be absorbed by it. Boom! The moment the dew came into contact with his body, Dongbo Shuiying's consciousness rumbled. At this moment he saw it. He could clearly see that within the dark and boundless chaotic origin dimension, there was an incomparably huge creature flying. It had a few dozen claws, and its body was filled with more than 1,000 eyes. Some of these eyes were gray, and some were gold, but at this moment these eyes were all closed. Because Dongbo Shuiying had seen too many gray and gold eyes in the past. Even if these eyes were closed, Dongbo Shuiying could ascertain with a single glance that they were those mysterious eyes which he once saw on the sky-floating islands. In the distance, there was a faint resplendent light. That was an incomparably vast origin world. It was emitting surging ripples that charged against the surrounding chaotic origin dimension. And this huge creature was leisurely flying by. It might seem slow, but it merely took a few seconds to fly across the length of an origin world. Because this creature was simply too huge. It was comparable to that vast origin world in the distance. Only then did Dongbo Shuiying deduce that this huge creature was roughly 1/10 the size of an origin world. Its body is actually so huge. Dongbo Shuiying was startled. This huge creature was too beautiful. It was a beauty that contained the laws. The scales on its body formed many spatial zones. Different regions of its huge body could even distort the flow of time. But no matter how time changed, this huge creature would always exist in the past, future and present. It would never change. Dongbo Shuiying even had a feeling that reaching this level, this huge creature should never die. It was as if it should appear in the future. It's just that Dongbo Shuiying vaguely knew that this huge creature should be one of the two terrifying chaotic origin life forms that died in the Broken Teeth Mountain range. Ling Yuan was injured, yet he still fell. It was unknown if he was killed by Yuan, or by Yuan and other chaotic origin experts. So beautiful. Dongbo Shuiying's consciousness sighed in admiration. That claw naturally contained the horrifying laws of destruction. As its body swam about, Dongbo Shuiying felt that it contained an incredibly profound mystery of the void. Its body was constantly producing a terrifying gravitational force. And if one was close to it, it would produce a frightening repulsive force. His body naturally contained gravitational and repulsive forces, causing waves of chaotic origin energy to form in the vast and dim chaotic origin dimension wherever it passed. Wang! Suddenly, all the eyes on this gigantic creature opened and looked in a certain direction. More than 1,000 eyes. Half of them were golden, and the other half were gray. Even if it was not staring at Dongbo Shuiying could feel the endless attraction from those gray eyes. And those golden eyes were all filled with horrifying offensive power, both perfectly fused together. One would cause the enemy to be immersed in it, weakening their defenses, while the other would attack the soul of the enemy. Only when these two perfectly fused together would it become a terrifying killing technique. Pong! Following that, the scene in his consciousness dissipated. Dongbo Shuiying regained his consciousness. That black leaf flower in front of him was still emitting a bewitching violet light. Dongbo Shuiying walked over. As he got closer, he discovered that the petals of the flower were slowly blooming. Finally it completely bloomed. There was some dew within the stamen, and at the core, there was a crystalline pearl that seemed like a dew embedded at the center of the flower. Because it was entirely transparent, it was glowing with light. At first glance, it did look like a dew, but Dongbo Shuiying knew that it was not a dew. Thousand-eyed water droplet. Dongbo Shuiying felt his heart palpitating. Thousand-eyed water droplet. It wasn't just Shuiying. Even Supreme Sure Fa and Great Emperor North River, who stopped collecting the flower, were able to clearly see that bead at the center of the stamen. Their eyes were so sharp that they could clearly see that pearl at the center of the stamen. Thousand-eyed water droplet. The supreme treasure of Broken Tooth Mountain Range. Broken Tooth Mountain Range had a total of 2 supreme treasures. One was the thousand-eyed water droplet, and the other was the snake tooth bead. They were sufficient to make any ultra-strong expert in Broken Tooth Mountain Range go crazy with greed. Because the moment they obtained it, they could rely on it to enter the legendary forbidden ground of Broken Tooth Mountain Range, The Snake-Tooth Corridor. The Snake-Tooth Corridor was too dangerous. The entrance was too terrifying. If Supremes entered just like that, they would undoubtedly die. Hence, they had to bring the thousand-eyed water droplet or snake-tooth bead in. Not good. When the black leaf flower completely bloomed, revealing that thousand-eyed water droplet, the terrifying suppression that originally pervaded the entire place abruptly disappeared. At the moment it disappeared, Dongbo Shuang knew something was amiss. The reason why nobody could obstruct him here was because the terrifying suppression prevented Supreme Sure Fa and the others from entering. South Dongbo Shuang reflexively extended his hand. His arm expanded at lightning speed, grabbing that thousand-eyed water droplet with his fingers. Hong! Hong! Supreme Sure Fa and Great Emperor North River both moved. Thousand-eyed water droplet. Supreme Sure Fa did not expect that there was a thousand-eyed water droplet hidden at the center of his black leaf lake. Even though there were quite a few thousand-eyed water droplets and snake-tooth beads, they were scattered across the vast Broken Tooth mountain range. Furthermore, it was incredibly difficult to obtain them. In history, almost all Supremes obtained them precisely because the difficulty was too great. The great emperors had only obtained it a few times. Supreme Sure Fa had entered the Snake-Tooth Corridor a total of 3 times in history, and precisely because he had entered before, he wanted to enter again. Supreme Sure Fa stop. Great Emperor North River was truly amazing. His reaction was even faster than Supreme Sure Fa. In addition to the short distance between them on the Black Leaf Mountain, Great Emperor North River only needed a single step to travel a short distance of 500 kilometers. Even though Supreme Sure Fa could teleport, in reality, this short distance could not be compared to flying. Teleportation required one to teleport from one location to another, and it required a short period of time. Scram! Supreme Sure Fa angrily roared out and waved his palm. This was the first time he acted against the team led by Dongbo Shuang. Brother Feishue, use your illusory realm. Great Emperor North River transmitted back. I know. Dongbo Shuang naturally did not hesitate. His terrifying mirage and illusory realm directly descended and dealt against that Supreme Sure Fa. Chapter 1258. A sword appeared in the hand of Great Emperor North River. The sword light turned into a surging river. This river flowed around Dongbo Shuang and Great Emperor North River. And Supreme Sure Fa was affected by the illusory realm. His palm that came slapping over clearly hesitated. Its power had weakened significantly. Nevertheless, it still made Dongbo Shuang feel an endless threat. Pung! This palm slapped down with endless black light, causing the sword light river of Great Emperor North River to distort. Great Emperor North River immediately brought along Dongbo Shuang and retreated. At the place where the palm clashed with the sword light river, there were even more dark aura that turned into small snakes tunneling over. These small snakes were making chi-chi-chi sounds under the obstruction of the sword light. They continued shrinking until they were completely consumed. But there were still some small black snakes that rapidly reached where Dongbo Shuang was. Great Emperor North River roared out furiously as he slashed out with his sword. Only then did he barely break through them. Supreme Sure Fa, you can't stop us. Great Emperor North River roared. The shockwave from the clash of both parties blasted out in all directions. It also affected the body of Dongbo Shuang, causing Dongbo Shuang to feel suffocated. His skin felt like it was being torn apart. Some wounds even appeared. Brother Feishue, you can't even resist against this? Great Emperor North River could not help but transmit over when he saw that. He could not even resist against powerful attacks. Just the shockwave alone was enough for ordinary kings from the Death Destruction clan and the natives to resist, yet Dongbo Shuang could not. I feel ashamed. Dongbo Shuang felt helpless. He was too weak. He could only resist against it with his body. Even though his fleshy body was considered formidable amongst cultivators, and his ability to deflect attacks was relatively strong, he could not compare with the natives who had chaotic origin bloodlines, much less the Death Destruction clan. The fleshy body of the Death Destruction clan was stronger by an entire level as compared to the natives. Supremacy Sure Fa stopped. He stood on a piece of black leaf. He remained silent. The surrounding black leaves and violet flowers were also in a mess. Quite a few flowers were even broken. But Supreme Sure Fa did not care. Over time, the flowers would bloom once again. Your luck is truly good. Supreme Martial Artist Sure Fa said in a low voice. It's Brother Feishua's good luck. Great Emperor North River laughed. The previous exchange gave him more confidence. Supreme Sure Fa should still have about 70% of his strength left, even though he was slightly stronger than Great Emperor North River. This slight advantage meant that it was hard to determine the victor, even if they fought for 100,000 or 1,000,000 years. Furthermore, Great Emperor North River had 10 god generals under him. These were the top 10 of the 36 divine generals that he had deliberately chosen. As for Supremacy Sure Fa's subordinates, under the influence of the illusory realm, the threat they posed was negligible. I can't stop you. Supreme Sure Fa nodded and admitted. However, there is only 1,000-eyed water droplet. How are the two of you going to split it? Dongbua Shui Ying and Great Emperor North River exchanged glances. How should they divide it? Brother Feishua, currently, the two of us are on the same boat. Neither of us can leave the other. Great Emperor North River transmitted. Only by working together can we leave safely. Monarch Feishua. Supreme Sure Fa lightly landed on a piece of black leaf. He said, with your current strength, there isn't much meaning in going to the snake-tooth corridor. After all, you haven't even reached the final realm. How about this? Why don't we make a deal? Give up on this North River, and give me the 1,000-eyed water droplet. What do you want? Just say it. I'll do my best to help you get it. This was the first time one of the 5 great supremes gave this promise to Dongbua Shuang. North River. Supreme Sure Fa turned to Great Emperor North River. Even though this monarch Feishua is under your protection, and you can kill him anytime you want, I've heard that he has many avatars. However, I heard that he has countless clones. Destroying these clones won't affect him at all. As for the 1,000-eyed water droplet, without the help of Monarch Feishua, do you think you can escape from the core region of my Sure Fa island? For the sake of this 1,000-eyed water droplet, I'm willing to disregard my reputation and gang up on you with my subordinates. By then, not only will you lose the 1,000-eyed water droplet, you will also lose your life. The expression of Great Emperor North River turned ugly. Right. If Dongbua Shuang chose to help Supreme Sure Fa, Great Emperor North River would indeed face a life-threatening danger. If it were under ordinary circumstances, the Supremes would disdain from ganging up on him. But the 1,000-eyed water droplet was related to the opportunity to enter the snake-tooth corridor. To the 5 great supremes, only by breaking through to the chaotic origin life-form realm could they disregard their reputation. Brother Feishua, you can't trust this Supreme Sure Fa. Great Emperor North River transmitted over. Don't you know the personality of the Death Destruction clan? They are capricious and are devils deep in their bones. Dongbua Shuang became silent. Great Emperor North River became even more anxious. He desired to get the 1,000-eyed water droplet, yet he was worried about his life. So mysterious. At this moment, Dongbua Shuang was holding on to the 1,000-eyed water droplet. He could feel strands of fluctuations. After permeating his consciousness into it, he could vaguely feel an illusory world within. It was a 1,000-eyed world that was incredibly mysterious. Is this the reason why that terrifying chaotic origin life form could unleash the bewilderment of the gray eyes and the destruction of the golden eyes at the same time? Dongbua Shuang was inwardly enlightened. Being a great expert in the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm, he was clear that the #1 killing technique he created in the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm could cause the enemy to fall into oblivion. The essence of this killing technique was to create an illusory world to envelop the enemy. It would drag the soul of the enemy into this illusory realm. As for the golden eyes, Dongbua Shuang had memorized many of the illusory realm structures within the golden eyes. Furthermore, his avatar and the #1 God General under Great Emperor Shamanic Wind, God General Stone Light, were continuing to explore the islands with gray eyes and golden eyes. He had memorized more and more of the illusory realm structures of the mysterious eyes. As for the illusory realm structure of the golden eyes, Shuang had comprehended it and absorbed it to comprehend the second killing technique. But the first killing technique and the second killing technique, he imagined, could not be executed on the same enemy at the same time, because these two killing techniques were illusory realms. One illusory realm was used to bewilder the enemy, and the other was used to kill the enemy within the illusory realm. These two illusory realms were entirely different, and the soul of the enemy could only be dragged into one illusory realm. After entering one illusory realm, the enemy could not enter the second illusory realm at the same time. These two techniques conflicted with each other. Nevertheless, at the first level Cosmos God, at that time, the 5 branches of the Tao of Mirage had yet to fuse together. Hence, his techniques were relatively crude. For instance, bewilderment was a pure bewilderment. World was an illusory realm world. Slaughter was a direct soul extermination. Instead, Shuang could execute both at the same time. And reaching the level of Dongbo Shuang, a single mirage and illusory realm technique was fused with many profound mysteries. The world lineage had long been fused into it. That was why it was so frightening. With one illusory realm, it was impossible for the enemy to enter the second illusory realm at the same time. So that's the case. Dongbo Shuang sensed this thousand-eyed water droplet. There was a vague illusory realm within the thousand-eyed water droplet. This world allowed the bewilderment realm of the gray eyes and the slaughter realm of the golden eyes to fuse together perfectly. This thousand-eyed water droplet is very useful to me. The gray eyes and the golden eyes allow me to discern two paths. And this thousand-eyed water droplet is able to fuse both paths into one. That is the true killing technique of that terrifying chaotic origin life form. Dongbo Shuang thought, how frightening would it be when two great techniques fused into one? At the same time, when the enemy resisted against the bewilderment, his heart force would be greatly damaged. Furthermore, he would suffer from a soul extermination attack, causing his injuries to be even more severe. With his soul injured, it would be harder for him to resist against the bewilderment. The two techniques complemented each other. The thousand-eyed water droplet is very important to me, but if I wanted to monopolize it, Supreme Sure Fa would definitely not agree to it. Great Emperor North River would most likely not agree to it too. Dongbo Shuang thought, even if I temporarily agreed to it due to the danger to my life, I'm afraid he would kill me when I leave this island. Supreme Sure Fa is from the Death Destruction clan. He isn't worth trusting. As for Great Emperor North River, I can trust him. But I can't monopolize it. Does that mean I can only trade with him? Dongbo Shuang rapidly pondered over it. He was very curious about the Snake Tooth Corridor, but he temporarily did not desire for it. Firstly, he hoped to reach the final realm earlier. Only then could he save his loved ones and good friends before the great apocalypse of his hometown origin world. Secondly, the illusory realm within the thousand-eyed water droplet was what he valued the most. Enter the Snake Tooth Corridor and take the risk? He would think about it after he reached the final realm. Great Emperor North River, do you really want the thousand-eyed water droplet? Dongbo Shuang transmitted. Honestly speaking, I naturally want it. Great Emperor North River's heart palpitated. He looked at Dongbo Shuang and transmitted back. I am just a step away from Grand Perfection Emperor on my path of cultivation. But I am the youngest Great Emperor, and have never been to the Snake Tooth Corridor before. If I could enter, I might become a supreme, but if Brother Feishua wants it, everything can be discussed. Chapter 1259. Dongbo Shuang did not dare believe that Supreme Sure Fa would disregard his pride and attack him when faced with the temptation of the thousand-eyed water droplet. Hence, for the sake of his life, Great Emperor North River would definitely compromise. But when they were about to leave the Sure Fa island, Great Emperor North River would most likely turn hostile for the sake of the thousand-eyed water droplet. Great Emperor North River, what Supreme Sure Fa said is correct. Dongbo Shuang transmitted. I have yet to reach the final realm. Even though I am curious about entering the Snake Tooth Corridor, I do not have a crazy desire to do so. Great Emperor North River felt his heart moved when he heard that. But this thousand-eyed water droplet is slightly unique. I wish to comprehend it. Dongbo Shuang transmitted again. How about this? Let me comprehend this thousand-eyed water droplet for 1,000,000,000,000 years. After 1,000,000,000,000 years, I'll give it to you. How about that? If you are worried that I would escape with the thousand-eyed water droplet, how about this? This avatar of mine that carries the thousand-eyed water droplet will always be by your side. It can also stay in your Eden treasure. Regarding this, both parties can swear an oath. I believe you should know how important oaths are to us cultivators. Good. Great Emperor North River was delighted. He transmitted back. Brother Feishue, I do not know how to repay such a huge favor. This is what I owe Brother Feishue. After this matter is over, Brother Feishue, can just tell me how you want me to repay you. Do we have to swear an oath? Dongbo Shuang transmitted back. Yes. Brother Feishue, if you swear an oath I will too. Great Emperor North River added. Both parties quietly came to an agreement. They also swore an oath. Dongbo Shuang did not have any other choice. Believe in Supreme Sheriff? He did not dare believe in a Supreme from the Death Destruction clan. Then he could only believe in Great Emperor North River. If he did not give the other party sufficient benefits, Dongbo Shuang felt that given the personality of Great Emperor North River, he would likely turn hostile. No choice, he was weak. That was the only way. Monarch Feishue, have you made your choice? Will you believe me? Or will you believe him? Supreme Being Sheriff spoke. Supreme Being, I'm sorry. Dongbo Shuang apologized. Alright, I hope you won't regret it. Supreme Sheriff's expression turned cold. He knew that the three Supremes from the Death Destruction clan did not have a good reputation. It was normal for the other party to believe in Great Emperor North River. Supreme Sheriff looked at Great Emperor North River. North River, your luck is really good. Do you want me to send you off? There's no need. Great Emperor North River replied. It won't take too long to fly out. Whoosh. Great Emperor North River waved his hand before keeping Dongbo Shuang. He then rapidly flew to the distance, turning into a stream that traveled at high speed across the sky-floating island. Within the Grotto Heaven treasure, Dongbo Shuang and his clones were all here. Thousand-eyed water droplet. Dongbo Shuang held onto the thousand-eyed water droplet. He was thoroughly immersed in it. The illusory realm, contained within the thousand-eyed water droplet, was too mysterious. Previously, the memories of the golden and gray eyes could be fused into it. It was as if it encompassed everything. The essence of the world is to contain everything. Everything can be contained. The illusory realm within this thousand-eyed water droplet isn't complete. After all, that chaotic origin life form has died, and the mysteriousness of the thousand-eyed water droplet has greatly diminished. Dongbo Shuang thought. But if it were alive, how would he have the chance to comprehend it in detail? Just as Dongbo Shuang was in the process of comprehending it, suddenly, a figure condensed by the side. It was the incarnation of Great Emperor North River. Great Emperor. Dongbo Shuang turned to Great Emperor North River by the side. Why, are we about to fly out of the sky-floating island? It's about time. Great Emperor North River chuckled and nodded. This time, it is all thanks to Brother Feishue. Because of Brother Feishue, I have collected quite a few black leaf flower dew. Furthermore, Brother Feishue has promised me that he would give me the thousand-eyed water droplet after 1,000,000,000,000 years. I really do not know how to repay this favor. Even though I can collect 1 or 2 supreme-graded secret treasures, compared to the thousand-eyed water droplet, it is still far too lacking. I have no way of repaying this favor. I can only remember it in my heart. Remember it in your heart. Dongbo Shuang was startled. Did he not say that he would give a supreme-graded secret treasure to thank him? At that moment, he felt that something was amiss. Also, the thousand-eyed water droplet is too precious. I am truly worried about letting Brother Feishue keep it for 1,000,000,000,000 years. It is better for me to get it as soon as possible. Great Emperor North River's smile became even more radiant. Dongbo Shuang's expression changed. North River, you are? Right, at least you aren't stupid. Great Emperor North River waved his hand. Hong long long. A terrifying sword light surged over like a river. Great Emperor North River grinned at Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shueying wanted to execute the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. But currently, he was still within the region of the sky-floating island, and could not escape. I am truly blind. The eyes of Dongbo Shueying were cold. Hong. Many avatars of his could not resist the sword light river of Great Emperor North River at all. They were all exterminated. After they were exterminated, only a thousand-eyed water droplet remained. Great Emperor North River revealed a look of excitement. He extended his hand and grabbed the thousand-eyed water droplet. His body was slightly trembling. The thousand-eyed water droplet is mine. Truly foolish. 1,000,000,000 years? Even though you swore an oath, 1,000,000,000,000 years is still a long time. Who knows what accidents might happen? It is better for me to get it as soon as possible. Haha, the harvest this time is too huge. I have collected enough flower nectar and obtained the thousand-eyed water droplet too. This monarch Feishue is truly foolish. He actually believed in my oath. Ha ha ha. Great Emperor North River coldly laughed. When he was weak, he once lived in the realm Heart Great Land. The cultivators in the realm Heart Great Land did not know that he was a native of the Broken Teeth Mountain Range. Hence, he relied on this oath to scam many cultivators. You cultivators care about oaths, but I don't. Great Emperor North River sneered. Some natives learned from the cultivators and worked hard to cultivate their heart. Hence they cared about oaths, but some did not care at all. Great Emperor North River was one of them. When Great Emperor North River acted, he was currently flying to the boundary of this sky-floating island. Relying on the suppression of the sky-floating island, he prevented Dongbo Shueying from escaping using the Great Destruction Realm teleportation. At the moment he killed the other party, he left the sky-floating island. North River, you still acted. A figure appeared in the distance. He was none other than Supreme Sure Fa who teleported. Humph. Great Emperor North River looked at Supreme Sure Fa. It's a pity that I've already left the sky-floating island. You can't do anything to me. Saying that, he directly teleported away. Supreme Sure Fa softly sneered as he watched. What a pitiful monarch Feishue. I've said it before, you will regret it. If you stood on my side, I could still throw some benefits to you in the future. But if you stood on the side of North River, your treasures would be snatched away immediately. Ultimately, you are too weak in direct combat. By relying on your soul technique, you can only rely on others in direct combat. North River, it is within my expectations that you would fall out with me. But this thousand-eyed water droplet has been snatched away by you. That means you have formed an enmity with that monarch Feishue. His combat strength is ordinary, but the threat he poses is huge. Supreme Sure Fa's eyes were filled with coldness. The thousand-eyed water droplet was clearly right in front of him, yet it was taken away by Great Emperor North River in the end. Supreme Sure Fa naturally could not let Great Emperor North River have his way. He really fell out with me. I've sworn an oath, and he has also sworn an oath. Yet he actually fell out with me? Within the Starlight World, an avatar of Dongbo Shueying, who was currently drinking wine in his courtyard, revealed a furious look. Dongbo Shueying knew that no matter who he chose to help, he would be in danger. He had already agreed to give up the thousand-eyed water droplet, as long as he used it to cultivate for 1,000,000,000 years. Both parties had sworn an oath. In addition to the influence Dongbo Shueying had across the entire Broken Tooth Mountain Range, if he fell out with him, Great Emperor North River would not have a good life in the future. But Great Emperor North River still fell out with him. Damn! Dongbo Shueying felt helpless in his heart. He had no choice. He was too weak. Even if Great Emperors and Supremes were weakened to 10% of their strength, they could still easily crush him to death. Brother Feishue, you actually obtained the thousand-eyed water droplet from Sure Fa Island, yet it was snatched away by North River? Monarch Feishue, I've heard that you helped North River, yet North River fell out with you and snatched away the thousand-eyed water droplet? He obtained your help, yet he still fell out with you. How can you allow him to live? Monarch Feishue, let me help you. Let us kill our way to the North River world and find that Great Emperor North River. Brother Feishue, that North River is too much of a bully. We can't tolerate this. Almost immediately, more and more transmissions came. Chapter 1260. These great emperors were extremely well informed. They actually received the news one after another, and most of them even took the initiative to ask for help from Dongbu Shuang. What a joke! Hearing the words thousand-eyed water droplet, most of their eyes turned red. In terms of strength, even though Great Emperor North River was slightly stronger, they were at the same level. It's just that Great Emperor North River had 36 god generals under him. That was why he was the strongest. But as long as Monarch Feishue appeared, the 36 god generals would have taken the initiative to escape. None of them would come and fight. As for Great Emperor North River, with Monarch Feishue working together, any one of them could easily trample on Great Emperor North River. Dongbu Shuang felt puzzled inwardly. This news was too well informed. Was it Supreme Sure Fa from the Death Destruction clan who spread the news? No matter what, he couldn't swallow this resentment. Alright, Brother Shamanic Wind, Great Emperor Xian Tu, Brother Dong Yuan. I'll have to trouble the three of you. Dongbu Shuang transmitted to the three great emperors. He had attended several banquets hosted by several great emperors, and amongst them, he had the best relationship with Shamanic Wind and the other two. Hence, he invited the three of them to act together. And there were a total of 5 who took the initiative to ask for help. From this point, one could see how bad the relationship between Great Emperor North River and the other great emperors was. No other choice. He was unscrupulous in his actions. For the sake of obtaining the territory that Great Emperor Glorious Earth originally ruled over, he had devised a wager and ultimately succeeded in obtaining that territory. Great Emperor North River treated the other great emperors who were subordinates of Supreme Vast Ancient in such a manner. Great Emperor North River would naturally not show any mercy to the other great emperors under another native Supreme Thunder Firmament. This person was too ruthless. In the past, Dongbu Shuang only agreed to help him because he wanted to prevent a calamity from happening in the Starlight World and many other worlds. In addition, Great Emperor North River knew how to conduct himself and treated others politely. It's just that he was ruthless when he turned hostile. Within the void of Broken Tooth Mountain Range, a white-robed young man, Dongbu Shuang, a violet-robed absolute beauty, Great Emperor Shamanic Wind, who had a blade by his waist, and a cold middle-aged male. The 4 of them gathered in midair. Brother Feishue, you truly trusted that North River too much. Great Emperor Shamanic Wind said. You suffered a loss this time. Let's not talk about these. Brother Flying Snow, North River should have acted against you just now, right? The violet-robed beauty, Great Emperor Xian Tu said. Yes, it was just a while ago. I was still thinking about how well-informed everyone is. Dongbu Shuang said. The news was released by Supreme Sure Fa. The thousand-eyed water droplet was on his sky-levitating island. In the end, Autarch Sure Fa didn't obtain it. How could he let North River be happy? North River is unscrupulous in his actions. We should teach him a lesson. There's no time to lose. We should head to the North River world immediately. Alright, let's go. Dongbu Shuang nodded his head. Who? The 4 of them tore through the void and used the great world-breaching teleportation technique to arrive at the interior of the North River world. Rumble. Above the North River God Palace, Dongbu Shuang and the other 3 appeared. They looked down at the chain of palaces. Who dares to offend my North River Palace? Daring to kill their way into the North River God Palace through the great world-breaching teleportation technique was akin to slapping the face of Great Emperor North River. At that moment, many figures rushed out from within the palace. Many were furious. They were the subordinates of Great Emperor North River. Currently, Great Emperor North River had a good relationship with Monarch Feishue, who dared to be so unbridled and kill their way here. Looking up, some of the leading god generals and other protectors were stunned. Of the 4 in the sky, 1 was Monarch Feishue, and the other 3 were great emperors. How is it? Great Emperor Xian Tu asked. I can't find him. I can't find him in the entire North River world. He should not have returned. Great Emperor Shamanic Wind said. Nope. Dongbu Shuang shook his head too. Even though his domain could not cover the entire North River world, he could still cover more than half of it. Similarly, He could not find any traces of Great Emperor North River. Great Emperor Dongming looked downwards. He even sneered. North River sought help from Monarch Feishue, yet he turned hostile and killed the avatar of Monarch Feishue just to snatch his treasures. Currently, he doesn't even dare to return to the North River world. Yet you people are still working for him? What a joke. Saying that, Great Emperor Dongming waved his hand. See la. A pitch-black crack tore through the ground, causing the entire North River Palace to be torn apart. These god generals and protectors were terrified. It was fine if 3 great emperors worked together. But there was also Monarch Feishue working together. They, the god generals, were completely slaughtered. Go. Dongbua Shui Ying, and the other 3 immediately teleported away. And now, the North River Palace was in ruins. The remaining god generals were looking at each other. Ask Big Brother Indo. Ask God General Skeletal Dragon. These god generals immediately transmitted their questions. God General Indo and the other 9 god generals had followed Great Emperor North River to Fa Island. Very soon. Let's go. Let's all go. Don't care about the North River world anymore. Great Emperor turned hostile and killed the avatar of Monarch Feishue before snatching away the 1,000-eyed water droplet. Now even other great emperors are envious of it. Even supremes would want it. Monarch Feishue will definitely not let this matter rest. Since Great Emperor has the 1,000-eyed water droplet, why would he care about us? Let's return to our own worlds. It's better for us not to participate in the battle between great emperors. With Monarch Feishue around, it's better for us god generals not to participate. If we were to die, it would be too late for regrets. The 10 god generals replied one after another. This caused some of the god generals within the broken North River Palace to feel dumbfounded. Their leader, Great Emperor North River, had obtained a huge benefit and enjoyed it alone. He did not care about them. Let's go. What are we doing here? Go, go, go. The god generals left one after another. Those weaker protectors also returned to their hometown. Dongbua Shui Ying and the other 3 were frantically searching for Great Emperor North River within the Broken Tooth Mountain range. But it's a pity that they could not find him. And now, Great Emperor North River was not foolish. Naturally, he would not appear. Amen. At a certain location in the void, Dongbua Shui Ying and the other 3 were here. Great Emperor Dongming frowned. He said, I've received news that Supreme Vast Ancient has sent his subordinates to monitor the Snake Tooth Corridor. He discovered that Great Emperor North River has entered the Snake Tooth Corridor not long ago. The Snake Tooth Corridor was a legendary forbidden ground. Only the 5 Supremes were qualified to send their subordinates to monitor the place. Other great emperors would be killed even if they sent their subordinates over. Not long ago, Great Emperor Xiantu frowned. In that case, he should have entered the Snake Tooth Corridor without hesitation after obtaining the 1,000-eyed water droplet. Although I really don't like this North River, his methods are truly ruthless and decisive. Great Emperor Shamanic Wind nodded. He should have left Fa Island and released the 10 god generals under him before heading to the Snake Tooth Corridor. Let's go and have a look. Dongbua Shuang said. Go, let's go to the Snake Tooth Corridor. Great Emperor Xiantu nodded. So. The 4 of them tore through the void and departed. Ordinary experts would be killed if they dared to enter, but it was different for great emperors. Even supremes had a hard time killing them. Naturally, nobody would obstruct the great emperors from personally viewing the Snake Tooth Corridor. They tore through the void. When the scene in front of him became clear, Shuang saw an incomparably towering serpent head in the distance. This serpent head seemed to be carved out of a rock, and was incomparably huge. It was much bigger than any of the sky-floating islands. The snake had opened its bloody mouth and revealed its fangs. Its mouth was deep and unfathomable. This open mouth of the snake produced a terrifying black maelstrom that was frenziedly devouring the surrounding energy. The region covered by this black maelstrom was roughly the size of the southern cloud nation. From what Dongbua Shuang saw, this terrifying black maelstrom formed a passage that led straight into the depths of the snake head's mouth. This black maelstrom passage was none other than the Snake Tooth Corridor. According to rumors, One could see many snake teeth on both sides of the corridor when one entered. So terrifying. Dong Ying could feel the terrifying tearing and destructive power coming from the black maelstrom just by looking at it from afar. According to legends, if Supremes tried to force their way in, they would be torn into pieces by the black maelstrom. Chapter 1261. Today was the 5th night. Amen? It's the 3 great emperors. That is Monarch Wuxia. Those who had been monitoring the surroundings for a long period noticed the 3 great emperors and Dong Ying. Hence, they did not come over to stop them. After all, everyone knew that a great emperor working together with Monarch Wuxia could fight against Supremes. Its power is terrifying, right? Great Emperor Shamanic Wind looked at that majestic and incomparably huge dark maelstrom and that savage snake head. He sighed. I've heard that this snake head is the head of one of the 2 chaotic origin lifeforms that have fallen. Even after it died, the maelstrom it formed would never dissipate. It is no different from sending us to our deaths if we were to force our way in. Dong Ying nodded. He looked at that towering snake head that seemed like it was carved from stone. The snake head was comparable to the dark maelstrom and the size of a nation in the southern cloud nation. How big would the entire snake be if it existed? This size was unfathomably huge. It was indeed an innate chaotic origin life form, and one of the best of the best. Emperor Deep Stone and myriad tentacles Dragon Sun were simply ants in front of a huge dragon when compared to them. North River has already escaped into the Snake Tooth Corridor. We can't chase after him at all. It is fortunate that he escaped fast. Many thanks to the 3 great emperors. Since North River has entered the Snake Tooth Corridor, let's temporarily forget about this matter. Dong Ying bade farewell to the 3 great emperors and left by himself. This matter involved the 1,000-eyed water droplet. That was a supreme treasure that could be relied on to enter the Snake Tooth Corridor. Furthermore, this matter involved one of the 5 great Supremes, Supreme Sure Fa, Great Emperor North River, and that cultivator from Realm Heart Great Land, Monarch Wuxia. Hence, this news spread very quickly across the apex experts in Broken Tooth Mountain Range. They were all discussing about this matter. They envied that Great Emperor North River, and felt that this Monarch Wuxia was quite pitiful. He helped Great Emperor North River, and could fight against Supreme Sure Fa. But other than his soul technique, his personal strength is too weak. He could not resist at all when facing Great Emperor North River, and was easily killed. In the end, he's just a cultivator, and cultivators are already extremely weak. I'm not strong enough. Naturally, I can't keep the 1,000-eyed water droplet. The 1,000-eyed water droplet is a treasure of my Broken Teeth Mountain Range. How could cultivators from Realm Heart Great Land be qualified to own it? Even though the apex experts in Broken Tooth Mountain Range were relatively respectful towards Monarch Wuxia, there were still some who looked down on cultivators from Realm Heart Great Land. They had always been unconvinced by the fame of Monarch Wuxia. This time, Imperial Emperor Wuxia suffered a great loss, so he naturally felt delighted. The transmission of news between the Realm Heart Great Land and Broken Teeth Mountain Range was slow. But 5 years after the incident happened, it gradually spread to the Realm Heart Great Land. In a cold and gloomy hall, there were pillars with strange diagrams on them, and on each pillar was a powerful vengeful spirit. Phew! A consciousness descended. The power of heaven and earth condensed into a handsome man wearing a cloak. It was the incarnation of Eternal Night Primogenitor. When the incarnation of Eternal Night Primogenitor descended, it immediately alarmed the vengeful spirits on the pillars by the side. Some of these vengeful spirits struggled and roared at Eternal Night Primogenitor. Some opened their eyes and glanced at Eternal Night Primogenitor before going back to sleep. Some stared coldly at Eternal Night Primogenitor. Each pillar contained an ultra-strong vengeful spirit, and a total of 12 vengeful spirits. I wonder what Undying Underworld Emperor is doing. Eternal Night Primogenitor muttered inwardly. Eternal Night, you are here. Seated on his throne, the luxurious golden-robed Undying Underworld Emperor, who had a crown on his head, opened his eyes. He looked down at Eternal Night Primogenitor. Why are you here instead of helping me? Eternal Night Primogenitor answered. Underworld Emperor, you can't blame me for this. You should know how famous that Yingshan Snow Eagle is now. He has such a huge influence in Broken Teeth Mountain Range. Many treasures and opportunities were sent to him by those experts in Broken Teeth Mountain Range, and it is possible for him to reach the final realm in the future. The moment he reached the final realm, he might just become the strongest expert in Realm Heart Great Land. I still want to live. Fortunately, I've asked Extreme Knight for help, agreeing to many promises, and that Monarch Feishua agreed to form a grudge between us. He is merely afraid of death. Even though Undying Underworld Emperor understood, he still sneered. I have no choice. Eternal Night Primogenitor shook his head. He felt humiliated too, but he was also worried that he would be pursued by Dongbo Shueying in the future. He did not even dare to personally intercede with the other party, because they had a grudge. He asked Extreme Night Primogenitor for help, and Dongbo Shueying agreed to the conditions. Just a year after the matter regarding the thousand-eyed water droplet happened, Eternal Night Primogenitor went to meet Dongbo Shueying alone. He made amends and swore an oath before Dongbo Shueying. Cultivators cared a lot about oaths. Actually, these great devils like Undying Underworld Emperor, Eternal Night Primogenitor, Moonflower King, and other Final Realm devils were not given a path of survival by Dongbo Shueying. As long as they agreed to the conditions and swore an oath, Dongbo Shueying would promise not to pursue them. The reason why Dongbo Shueying did this was because he could not kill those Final Realm devils currently. If he did not give them a path of survival, these Final Realm devils would simply go crazy and create a huge disaster. Most of them had obediently come and swore an oath. Only like Undying Underworld Emperor, who wanted to become a chaotic origin life form wholeheartedly. It was impossible for him to achieve it by relying on his own cultivation. His confidence had long disappeared. He only wanted to enter the Snake Tooth Corridor. That was why he fell out with Dongbo Shueying. Currently, he was frantically collecting a large number of souls. Many beings had died because of him. To this, Dongbo Shueying could not stop him at all. Didn't he, Yingshan Snow Eagle, suffer a huge loss in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range? Undying Underworld Emperor sneered. He was actually fortunate enough to obtain the thousand-eyed water droplet. Nonetheless, he wasn't strong enough, and the treasure was snatched away by others. Great Emperor North River treated him incomparably politely in the past. Yet didn't he fall out with him? Humph. During ordinary times, the experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range would still give him some face. But this matter involves a huge opportunity to become a chaotic origin life form. What is he, Yingshan Snow Eagle? Right. Those experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range merely feel that he has some value. Eternal Night Primogenitor nodded. After all, we cultivators are ultimately much weaker than the experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range. Yuan had set a rule that prevented the apex experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range from entering the Realm Heart Great Land. The apex cultivators in the Realm Heart Great Land. Some were forced by Dongbo Shueying to take the initiative to apologize and admit defeat. Some were envious and jealous. After hearing about what happened in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range, many sneered inwardly. Look at how arrogant he is. Everyone said that he would become the #1 expert in the Realm Heart Great Land in the future. But now, didn't those experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range fall out with him? He is ultimately too weak. Everyone said that it is possible for him to reach the final realm. But who knows how long he might be stuck there for. Various parties were discussing. What they said was logical too. It was indeed difficult to reach the final realm, because of the chaotic origin weapon, and because of the supreme secret importation that Monarch Feishua had. In addition to the many opportunities in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range, many felt that it was possible for him to reach the final realm. But no matter how big the hope was, it was just hope. As long as he did not break through, it was unknown how long he would be stuck at the bottleneck. The outside world was in an uproar. Within Feishua City, Dongbo Shueying was still living his life leisurely. What did he say about becoming the #1 expert in the Realm Heart Great Land in the future? What did he say about being stuck at the bottleneck for a long time? What did he say about being easily bullied in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range? Snow Eagle, is the matter regarding the thousand-eyed water droplet true? Southern Cloud King personally came to ask. Teacher, have a seat. Dongbo Shuang chuckled when he saw his teacher coming. I am asking you about something. After Southern Cloud King sat down, he immediately poured himself a cup of wine. After drinking it, he stared at Dongbo Shuang. It's true. That is normal too. Other than soul techniques, in terms of direct combat strength, how could I be considered in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range? Dongbo Shuang chuckled. AI. What a pity. The opportunity to enter the legendary forbidden ground of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range is right in front of you. Yet you have missed it. Southern Cloud King said. Previously, he did not know what the Snake Tooth Corridor was. It was only after the news spread that he inquired about it. Only then did he understand how unique and mysterious the Snake Tooth Corridor was. Even the 5 great supremes of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range wanted to enter that place. There's nothing pitiful about it. I have never thought that I could monopolize that thousand-eyed water droplet. Dongbo Shuang said. He had always been calm. He did not have any extravagant hopes. It's just that I have misjudged Great Emperor North River. I have already made many promises and oaths. I even promised to have an avatar follow by his side, yet he was still worried. He would rather offend me just to snatch the thousand-eyed water droplet away. Southern Cloud King nodded when he heard that. It's a pity. If only Snow Eagle were strong enough to fight against experts at the level of Emperor Summer, coupled with your illusory realm techniques, you wouldn't have to fear him anymore. Dongbo Shuang chuckled. Ultimately, he was weaker than others. There was nothing much to say. The matter regarding the thousand-eyed water droplet had spread across the Broken Tooth Mountain Range and Realm Heart Great Land. Dongbo Shuang had been cultivating in a low-profile manner. On this day, Feishua City Monarch residence, Dongbo Shuang sat under a pavilion, watching the fishes swimming in the lake. Suddenly, he thought of a scene he once saw. That was the scene of a terrifying chaotic origin life form flying through the endless primal chaos space. Every single move of this chaotic origin life form is filled with unfathomable power. Dongbo Shuang had an amazing memory. He could clearly remember everything. It was fine if he saw other profound mysteries on the body of that chaotic origin life form as it flew, but the Tao of Void was what he specialized in. At this moment, he could not help but recall that scene and ponder over the profound mysteries of the Tao of Void contained in that chaotic origin lifeform's movement. Flying and swimming. With a single tremble, it could easily fly across an origin world. Its control over the Tao of Void had reached a stage that startled Dongbo Shuang. Too perfect. Dongbo Shuang could not see any flaws in this flying and swimming lifeform. Everything was as one. He admired this beauty. He admired how extraordinary that enormous chaotic origin life form was when it flew and swam. Heaven phase and earth phase are as one. Yet the thread phase is so beautiful. Violent phase can be so crazy too. Dongbo Shuang admired it. Gradually, a light of inspiration flashed through his mind. His avatar had been in closed-door cultivation in the Seven Bell Pagoda, comprehending the Tao of Void. He had reaped many benefits, and he had always wanted to create the 6th killing technique for the Tao of Void. And now at this moment inspiration flashed. The many insights he gained in the past were like beads that were strung together by a thread. Heaven phase, earth phase, void phase, violent phase and origin phase are intertwined with each other, using the empty phase to contain, using the thread phase to form a connection. In the mind of Dongbo Shuang appeared the swaying tail of that enormous chaotic origin life form. A single swing would produce many thread phases. Different thread phases fused perfectly with one another. 3 thread phases will suffice. 3 thread phases fuse with one another, using the Tao of pluralism to fuse them together. Working together, returning to the great nirvana. Dongbo Shuang revealed a look of excitement. He had always wanted to fuse all 9 branches together. He had even accumulated his insights to an incomparably thick stage. He was just lacking a final spark. At this moment he finally had an epiphany. From admiring the scene of that terrifying chaotic origin life form swimming, He gained a spark that rapidly fused with many other insights. Chapter 1262. Today was the 6th chapter. His hometown origin world, Primal Chaos Void. A small boat was flying in the void. Dongbua Shuang was currently seated cross-legged at the bow of the boat. Currently, his cultivation had reached a crucial moment. Not just the avatars in Realm Heart Great Land or his hometown, even the avatars under the Burning Heart God Tree had temporarily stopped comprehending the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm. All avatars were fully focused on researching the Tao of Void, Heaven, Earth, Void, Origin, and Violent. The 5 phases are intertwined. The empty phase contains them. The thread phase connects them. Dongbua Shuang sat cross-legged at the bow of the boat. He lightly waved his right hand. Selah. A black crack abruptly tore apart the world. It tore apart the primal chaos void. It also tore apart the membrane of this origin world. Outside this black crack was the surging chaotic origin energy. This crack was approximately 5 kilometers long and was as thick as a finger. Selah, Selah, Selah. Every time he waved his hand or swiped his finger, a crack would appear in the origin world. As Dongbua Shuang was experimenting with his techniques, his avatars in the Realm Heart Great Land's 7-bell pagoda were doing their best to deduce and cultivate. Within the 7-bell pagoda, the efficiency of cultivation was incredibly high. Every time he perfected a technique, Dongbua Shuang would experiment again and again. Selah, Silah, the sound of tearing apart the membrane of the origin world made one's heart tremble. Gradually, this sound became weaker and weaker. The crack that was torn became even more inconspicuous. 10 days later. Who? It was a very soft sound as if he was breathing. He lightly waved his palm, causing a continuous crack to appear in the world. This crack was very long, about 150 kilometers long. It was so thin that it was hard to discern with the naked eye. The trajectory of the crack was even slightly rhythmic. It was not a simple straight line or curve. It's about time. It is sufficient to control it to this stage. Next, it is time for the 3 thread phases to fuse with each other, using the multiverse to fuse into one and return to nirvana. Dongbua Shuang pondered. The Tao of Void had a total of 9 branches: Heaven, Earth, Void, Origin, Violent, Thread, Void, Multiverse, and Nirvana. The intertwining of thread, fuse with multiverse, and return to nirvana. Dongbua Shuang muttered. He waved his right hand again. But this time, each of his fingers was moving gently. Hoo. 3 cracks that tore apart the membrane of the source world appeared one after another. After the 3 cracks appeared, they quickly converged and blasted open a pitch-black hole with a diameter of more than 10 meters. No, it's too stupid. He waved his hand again. He tested each move. The memories of the many doppelgangers were interlinked, and their comprehensions were constantly fused. Some ideas were quickly eliminated after being verified, while the correct ones were absorbed. He was getting closer and closer to the grand completion seen in his imagination. Because Dongbua Shuang owned a chaotic origin weapon and a top-graded secret treasure, he had experienced the final realm Tao of Void. He was constantly approaching the final realm of the Tao of Void. It's the combination of the 5 threads. After experimenting for half a year, only then did Dongbua Shuang discover his mistake. The 6th killing technique he created was derived from referencing the flying and swimming movements of that terrifying chaotic origin life form. But as Shuang experimented over and over again, there would always be some gaps. Shuang carefully recalled the scene of that terrifying chaotic origin life form flying and swimming in the past. Only then did he confirm it. It was indeed the combination of the 5 lines. The swimming of its tail was indeed 3 lines. But its enormous body was already a line. And the surrounding surging chaotic origin energy perfectly fused with its swimming body. It was also a line. That was the 5 lines. 5 lines is 1. 1 is the guide, 1 is the power, and 3 is the foundation. Multitudes as 1 returned to nirvana. Dongbua Shuang sat cross-legged at the bow of the boat. At this moment, he was testing out his techniques time after time. Every time he tried, the power of his techniques would become more violent. It even alarmed Swordmaster and Old Monster Stone to come and take a look. The two of them watched from afar before leaving with a smile. It was normal for Dongbua Shuiying to have such a commotion while cultivating. Even with the embryonic form and the help of the Seven-Bell Pagoda, Dongbua Shuiying had spent 20,000 years before succeeding. He encountered too many problems. For instance, fusing the 5 lines as one. Every line had a myriad of variations that complemented and intersected with one another. On a day after cultivating for 20,000 years at the bow of the boat, Dongbua Shuiying's eyes suddenly brightened. He punched out with his fist. The surrounding void abruptly turned silent. Everything shattered, shattering the membrane wall of the origin world. A terrifying ripple directly blasted into the vast chaotic origin dimension. This fist was like the flight of an enormous chaotic origin life form. It was grand and unstoppable, tyrannical, powerful. Dongbua Shuiying's Tao of Void fused 9 branches into one. Eventually it reached nirvana as the final extremity. Everything returned to the great nirvana. I've succeeded in my 6th killing technique. I've also succeeded in reaching the final realm. Dongbua Shuiying felt his heart beating faster. There was a grin on his face. The 6th killing technique was the perfect fusion of 9 branches. He had finally comprehended the complete Tao of Void. Final realm, I finally reached the final realm. Final realm in the Tao of Void. Ha 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 ha. Shuiying could not help but laugh out loud. He laughed out loud. It had been too long. Ever since he knew that his hometown was approaching the great apocalypse, he had felt an unseen burden pressing down on his body. He could not accept the great apocalypse happening to his hometown. His loved ones had died one by one, leaving him alone to survive the great apocalypse. This kind of loneliness would drive him crazy. He did not dare to relax at all times. He had reached a bottleneck after fusing 8 branches. He had no other choice. He could only try his best to create a technique that he felt was perfect. He constantly pursued perfection. The first killing technique, the second killing technique, the third killing technique. He created one after another. Every single technique allowed him to accumulate more and more experience. Finally, he had accumulated a lot of experience, and success came naturally. Under the profound mysteries contained in the flying posture of that chaotic origin life form, with a flash of inspiration, he created his 6th killing technique. This was also a technique that fused 9 branches together. The feeling of reaching the final realm in the Tao of Void is truly different. Dongbua Shuiying chuckled. He stood at the head of the ship. With a thought, he traced along the spatial particles in the origin world, enveloping the entire origin world. He saw many places: Swordmaster, Old Monster Stone, Forefather Tianyu, Blade Emperor, his wife Jingqiu, his children Dongbuyu, Dongbua Qingyao. He saw many people, yet they could not sense it. After all, this was through the essence of the void black fog spherical particles. Someone sensed it. Oh! Within an ordinary cosmos, Lord Lo Cheng had transformed into a blacksmith. He was currently focused on forging a blade. Suddenly, he sensed something and looked up. His gaze pierced through the distance and landed on Dongbua Shuiying with a grin. At the same time, he said, "Dongbua Shuiying, congratulations on reaching the final realm in the Tao of Void before the great apocalypse, allowing you to save those you care about." By now, Dongbua Shuiying knew the identity of this Lord Lo Cheng. There were legends about Lord Lo Cheng in the Broken Teeth mountain range. This was a newly risen chaotic origin life form. He broke through with his strength and became a chaotic origin life form. Furthermore, it was rumored that he was a terrifying peak-level chaotic origin life form. His strength was not any weaker than Yuan. If one had to describe him, the 2 terrifying chaotic origin life forms that fell in the Broken Teeth mountain range were not as strong as this Lord Lo Cheng. This was the difference between cultivators and innate chaotic origin life forms. No matter how strong innate chaotic origin life forms were, their control of energy was much weaker. Only cultivators could truly cultivate step by step. Their control of the laws and profound mysteries was too exquisite. Even if Lord Lo Cheng was comparable in strength to those terrifying chaotic origin life forms, his survival capabilities would likely be 10 to 100 times stronger. Just like Emperor Summer from the realm Heart Great Land, and those world masters from the Broken Teeth Mountain Range, they were all initial emperors. But against great emperors, world masters could not resist at all. Yet Emperor Summer could escape with his life. He could even fight against several world masters in direct combat. His survival capabilities were much stronger. If not for Lord Lo Cheng's world flower, I don't know how long I would have to wait. Dong Buishuang added, opportunities can be given by others, but strength has to be grasped by oneself. Lord Lo Cheng chuckled, properly cultivate. If you could reach the final realm in your Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm, I might be able to admire you. Reaching the final realm in the Tao of Void, Lord Lo Cheng was a chaotic origin life form that overlooked the countless origin worlds and stood at the apex. He did not care about it. Instead, it was the Tao of Soul. Until now, none had reached the final realm. If Dong Buishuang succeeded, Lord Lo Cheng would naturally admire him. Any chaotic origin expert would admire him. I'll definitely work hard. Dong Buishuang did not feel any pressure. Without the pressure from the Great Apocalypse, he had sufficient time to cultivate. But he was clear that reaching the final realm in the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm was not easy, even though he could see the path. One could see how difficult it was to reach the final realm in the Tao of Void. He had long reached the bottleneck. Furthermore, he had a supreme secret impartation. Yet he only reached the final realm after creating the sixth killing technique. Lord Lo Cheng lowered his head and continued forging the blade embryo in his hand. He muttered softly, if the Tao of Soul reaches the final realm, I wonder what kind of mystical things would happen. Dong Buishuang? Who knows, you might really become a chaotic origin life form. By then, there would be no need for me to stay here as a guard. The sound of forging continued. Blacksmith, blacksmith, bring out your toughest blade for me. I want the toughest blade. Find one that I'm satisfied with. I won't mistreat you. A voice could be heard from outside. A muscular man barged in. I'm coming. Lord Lo Cheng chuckled. Chapter 1263. Eastern Unicorn Sacred World. In a secluded residence, Dong Buishuang and his wife Jing Qiu lived in seclusion. Jing Qiu. Dong Buishuang stood outside a meditation room and shouted. His voice was transmitted into the room. Rumble. The meditation room's door opened. Jing Qiu walked out helplessly. She glared at her husband unhappily. Snow Eagle, don't you know that I am in seclusion? I can't disturb you if there isn't anything important. I was just halfway through my experiment, and you ruined it. Why are you still smiling here? Although your wife isn't as strong as you, cultivation is still very important, right? Haha, no matter what cultivation it is, we will stop today. Come, let us husband and wife drink together and celebrate. Dong Buishuang pulled his wife along. Celebrate? Jing Qiu was slightly confused. Celebrate what? What is there to celebrate? Dong Buishuang intentionally didn't say anything. He pulled his wife into a garden, and the two of them sat facing each other. He flicked his hand. Flowers bloomed by the side, and a fragrance permeated the air. Trees were sprouting, and some butterflies were born. They circled around the flowers, and the birds were chirping. In the distant lake, all sorts of mutated beasts appeared. Jing Qiu, let me pour some wine for you. This is the rain tree fruit wine that I personally brewed. Dong Buishuang poured some wine. Jing Qiu was slightly surprised. She looked at the surroundings and couldn't help but ask, hurry up and say it. What is it that is worth celebrating? Dong Buishuang passed his wine cup to his wife. Let's have a toast first. Alright, up to you. Jing Qiu was helpless. The two of them clinked their cups, and Dong Buishuang said softly, let me tell you a big secret. I do want to know what big secret it is. Jing Qiu placed her wine cup down. I have already reached the final realm in the Tao of Void. Dong Buishuang smiled. Jing Qiu was stunned. Then she widened her eyes. She stared at Dong Buishuang. Really? Jing Qiu asked after a long pause. Really? Dong Buishuang nodded. Jing Qiu was incomparably excited. They had long since known that their origin world was approaching the Great Apocalypse. People like Dong Buiyu, Dongbua and Qingyao were all extremely diligent in their cultivation. However, in reality, They all understood that the chances of them surviving the great apocalypse were too slim. Even forefather Tian Yu and the others felt that this was an extravagant hope. The greatest possibility was that Dongbua Shuiying had stepped into the final realm of the Tao of Void before the great calamity. After reaching the final realm, one's control over the void would increase greatly. With the great world-breaching teleportation technique, one would be able to bring other life forms with them. But I'm only telling you about this for now. You don't have to spread it. Dongbua Shuiying said, I still have an important matter to do in the realm Heart Great Land. It won't be too late to publicize it after I finish it. All right. Jingqiu nodded. The important matter was more important. This is great. Jingqiu let out a sigh of relief. Dongbua Shuiying chuckled too. The two of them as husband and wife had long seen through life and death. They had seen through life and death in the past, when they were still transcendents. They believed that Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qing Yao had already seen through life and death after cultivating to their current strength. Nonetheless, the two of them still hoped to protect their children. Realm Heart Great Land, Southern Cloud Nation, Feishua City. Dongbua Shuiying's avatar, guarding the Feishua City, was currently wielding a chaotic origin weapon. He was currently familiarizing himself with his new strength after breaking through. Mysterious. Dongbua Shuiying stood within the cultivation room. He held onto the Azure River spear and revealed a look of astonishment. Ever since he reached the final realm in the Tao of Void, Dongbua Shuiying's consciousness easily permeated through the black fog spherical particles. The previously mysterious black fog spherical particles were now like cells in his body. He could easily control them. His consciousness could even permeate into the vast chaotic origin dimension. The enormous origin world was constantly producing ripples, causing the surrounding chaotic origin energy to fluctuate. Wielding the Azure River spear, my perception towards the chaotic origin dimension has clearly become stronger. I can permeate through a greater distance too. Dongbua Shuiying sighed. And the 6th and 7th Supreme Secret Importation Technique. The final two chaotic origin 7 strikes were extraordinary. Even after reaching the final realm, and being guided by a supreme secret importation technique, he could not execute them. He had to rely on the chaotic origin weapon to do so. It was precisely by relying on these two strikes that Dongbua Shuiying's strength could transcend ordinary unparalleled existences. Actually, he did not have the Azure River spear. Just the first 5 chaotic origin strikes. By relying on top-graded secret treasures, he could fight against unparalleled existences. Just like Sword Master. These final 2 strikes. Dongbua Shuiying was startled. Naturally, he would not be foolish enough to imitate it. Instead, he absorbed the essence within and fused it into his own technique. He perfected his techniques by absorbing a final realm Tao of Void technique from a supreme secret importation technique. He executed it using his chaotic origin weapon. One day, Dongbua Shuiying was currently consolidating his techniques. He was executing a domain-related technique. The Tao of Void was originally famous for its domain techniques. Wang. By relying on the Azure River spear, his perception was much stronger. At this moment, his consciousness fused into the black fog spherical particles. In the blink of an eye, it had spread across the entire realm Heart Great Land. Every single location within the realm Heart Great Land, including Eternal Night Primogenitor, Extreme Night Primogenitor, and the 3 old ancestors from the Icy Snow Ancient Nation, had been thoroughly scouted by Dongbua Shuiying. Other than the realm Heart God Palace and Broken Teeth Mountain Range, there were 3 other places that he had yet to explore. These 3 places were the secluded cultivation grounds of Emperor Summer, Drifter and Limitless City Master. For the sake of avoiding detection, Dongbua Shuiying could sense the arrays left behind by Emperor Summer and the others. He knew that he would be triggered the moment he ventured deeper. Hence, he did not probe further. I can actually cover the entire realm Heart Great Land with my senses. Dongbua Shuiying was slightly startled. The realm Heart Great Land was too big. It was much bigger than most origin worlds. And the suppression from the supreme law was huge too. The detection range of a final realm expert's domain was usually very limited. It was still far from covering the entire realm Heart Great Land, even when the primitive ancient sacred world was intact. Even though it was much smaller than the realm Heart Great Land, final realm experts could not envelop the entire world with a thought. If I didn't have the Azure River Spear, Dongbo Shuang tried not relying on the Azure River Spear. Instead, he relied on his own senses. The range of his senses rapidly shrunk. Even with a supreme graded secret importation technique, the range he could cover with a thought was roughly twice that of the territory of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. It was much weaker than the entire realm Heart Great Land. I can actually envelop the entire Great Land? If that's the case, wouldn't that undying underworld emperor be unable to escape from my detection? Dongbo Shuang revealed a joyous look. If the enemy remained within his domain, even if the enemy escaped from one location to another, he could immediately conceal his tracks and change his aura. But because he was constantly observing the other party, Shuang could even see through the disguise of the other party. Naturally, the other party could not escape. If his domain was slightly smaller, like with the supreme graded secret importation technique, it would merely be twice that of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. The moment the enemy escaped out of his domain, he would immediately change his aura and appearance, making it impossible for Shuang to locate the enemy. But my domain covers everything. Dongbo Shuang revealed a joyous look. If I don't care about being discovered, I could even forcibly search for Emperor Summer, Drifter, and Limitless City Master. Dongbo Shuang thought. The moment he tried to do so, he would definitely be discovered. Just like how Emperor Summer and the others would be discovered by Shuang, undying underworld emperor. It seems the heavens want you dead. Dongbo Shuang's eyes were filled with killing intent. Currently, this madman was wantonly plundering the souls of countless living beings, and Dongbo Shuang could not stop him at all. Previously, Limitless City Master was the only one who could track him down, yet he refused to help. Fortunately, Shuang had a supreme graded secret importation and a chaotic origin weapon. Furthermore, his void domain was so vast that it could envelop the entire realm Heart Great Land. The enemy could not escape. Shuang could even arrange an avatar at the boundary of the Broken Teeth Mountain Range. If undying underworld emperor escaped to the Broken Teeth Mountain Range, he would only die faster. Very good. Dongbo Shuang suppressed his killing intent. It has been so long. Let me consolidate my strength a little more. Shuang would first consolidate his strength, if he could improve it within a short period. As for the more complex ones like the chaotic origin refinement body, Dongbo Shuang felt that he could attempt to create the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body at his current realm. But clearly the difficulty was too high. It was not something he could do within a short period. He just had to consolidate his strength slightly before he could act. Other than telling his wife and being discovered by Lord Locheng, Dongbo Shuang did not tell anyone else about his breakthrough to the final realm. 600 years after breaking through, he had consolidated his strength and perfected the techniques he often used. It is about time. My strength has reached a peak within a short period. It is impossible for me to improve any further. It is time for me to act. Dongbo Shuang thought. Previously, he planned to find a group of world masters to team up with him. Now that his strength had increased, it was sufficient for him to fight one-on-one. Chapter 1264. Standing in his cultivation room with the Azure River Spear in his hand, he released his void domain. His enormous domain soon covered the entire realm Heart Great Land. He only avoided a few places, and immediately discovered where undying underworld emperor was located. That was a huge palace hidden deep underground in the wilderness. There were many halls within the palace, and they were all places where undying underworld emperor experimented. Large amounts of souls were being experimented on. There were 12 stone pillars, and every single one of them contained a powerful vengeful soul. These 12 vengeful souls were incredibly powerful. There were even some unique souls that made Dongbo Shuang feel strange. How many souls have he consumed in these experiments? Dongbo Shuang's eyes turned red as he watched. Even though the number of souls that died was not as high as the 15 nations, It was equivalent to the total population of an ordinary Tier 3 nation. Madman, if he chose to walk on this evil path in cultivation, he should be killed. Selah. A black crack appeared. Dongbo Shuang took a step before disappearing from the place. Great Destruction Realm teleportation. Within the towering palace, Undying Underworld Emperor was still patiently carrying out his experiments. He had not even begun experimenting on that chaotic origin life-form corpse. In his opinion, it was still too early. He had already confirmed some preparatory experiments. Only when he was 90% confident would he experiment on the corpse of the chaotic origin life-form. Furthermore, it had only been a few tens of thousands of years since he broke down his talks with Dongbo Shuang. The experiments are going smoothly. In the past, I could refine a complete Deathwalker. Currently, the conditions aren't sufficient, and I can't sacrifice it on a large scale. But it isn't hard to refine an incomplete Deathwalker. I originally planned to succeed within 1 trillion years, but now that I've experimented, I might not even need 1 trillion years. I believe I should be able to do it within 100 billion years. Undying Underworld Emperor was in a good mood. The moment I succeed, Yingshan Snow Eagle, I'll destroy your Feishua city first. Aren't you planning on moving the entire Yingshan clan over? By then, I'll wipe out the entire Yingshan clan. Only then would I be able to vent the anger in my heart. Undying Underworld Emperor looked forward to it. A complete Deathwalker was a half-chaotic origin life-form body that could fight against Supremes. An incomplete Deathwalker could still fight against great emperors in the eyes of Undying Underworld Emperor. Wiping out Feishua city, effortlessly. Just wait and see. No one can help you. Unless you can reach the final realm, before I refine it. Undying Underworld Emperor did not believe Shuang. Rip. Suddenly, a black crack appeared in midair within the towering palace. A white-robed young man walked out from within. He was none other than that outstanding monarch Feishua. He wielded a dark spear and stared at Undying Underworld Emperor coldly, shouting, "Underworld Emperor, your death date has arrived." Yingshan Snow Eagle? Undying Underworld Emperor was startled. At this moment Dongbo Shui Ying's aura was grand and sharp. But this aura could be faked. Nonetheless, that chaotic origin weapon in his hand made Undying Underworld Emperor understand that Monarch Feishua might take the risk. But he would absolutely not risk a chaotic origin weapon. Losing an avatar was a minor matter. But if he lost his chaotic origin weapon, that would be a huge loss. Since he dared to bring his chaotic origin weapon here, it was clear he was absolutely confident. The worst-case scenario had still happened. You broke through to the final realm? Undying Underworld Emperor's voice was slightly hoarse. Roar. Yeah. The 12 vengeful spirits located on the 12 stone pillars of the palace discovered an outsider. Quite a few of them let out ear-piercing roars. Dongbo Shuang looked at those vengeful spirits. Most of them were mad and cruel. Dongbo Shuang only felt pity for these vengeful spirits. Rest assured, I'll soon avenge all of you. I have indeed reached the final realm. Why? Are you surprised? Dongbo Shuang looked at Undying Underworld Emperor. Surprised. Very surprised. Undying Underworld Emperor understood. He had encountered his greatest crisis. During the time when he was on his path to becoming a chaotic origin life form, he had met with many huge crises. But at that time, experts were as common as clouds. He was merely one of them, and he could escape from death many times. But at this moment in the realm Heart Great Land, nobody could save him. I guess that you have a high chance of breaking through to the final realm. It's just that I did not expect it to be so fast. Undying Underworld Emperor stood up. It is an accident that your death date should be so fast. Less nonsense. Receive my move. The eyes of Dongbo Shuang flashed. Hong. The mirage and illusory realm descended. It was none other than the only killing technique he comprehended in the Tao of mirage and illusory realm. Resplendent illusory realm. That resplendent world made Undying Underworld Emperor feel a strong attraction the moment he touched it. Not good. Undying Underworld Emperor felt his heart sinking. In terms of soul and willpower, the mirage and illusory realm had an influence on his heart force similar to that on Supremes. But the 5 great supremes of Broken Tooth Mountain Range had powerful bloodlines. They did not attach much importance to the profoundness of the realm. Even if their heart force was weaker, they could still unleash a powerful strength. But cultivators were different. The techniques executed by cultivators were incredibly profound. The moment their heart force was damaged, their strength would drop significantly. The influence on my strength is greater than what I expected. Undying Underworld Emperor knew that things were amiss. Hong! The Azure River spear in Dongbo Shui Ying's hand pierced out. This stab, the surrounding world collapsed abruptly. It suppressed and restricted Undying Underworld Emperor. And within that metallic heart of Undying Underworld Emperor, 2 drops of golden blood were ignited consecutively. A unique golden energy immediately surged into his palms. He did not hesitate to receive this stab from Dongbo Shuiying head-on. This stab might seem ordinary, but in reality, it had already pierced through one of the golden palms the moment it was sent out. Pung! Undying Underworld Emperor was sent flying back. He smashed into the palace hall behind him, forming a ravine that was hundreds of thousands of kilometers long. Undying Underworld Emperor flew all the way back to the surface. Falling star strike. Dongbo Shuiying took a step before leaving the ground. He arrived in midair before hacking out with the spear in his hand. Hong! The world trembled. Countless primal chaos dark light revolved around the spear. They fused together, forming a faint dark star at the spearhead. When the spear was hacked out, it was just like a dark star arcing through the sky. It directly clashed against Undying Underworld Emperor. This strike was too fast. Undying Underworld Emperor only felt dazed for a moment before the dark star rolled in front of him. He could only hurriedly use his hands to defend against it. Following that, he felt an intense pain in his palms. Ka. The bones in his palms broke. The spear then smashed against the body of Undying Underworld Emperor. It forced Undying Underworld Emperor back once again. Fresh blood spurted out from his mouth. The gap is so huge. Undying Underworld Emperor chose to defend against it twice. He wanted to use this opportunity to sense the gap between them. He estimated that he only had about 30% to 40% of the current strength of this monarch Feishue. His mirage and illusory realm has greatly influenced my strength, forcing me to unleash 50% of it. Calculating it this way, even if I do my best without being affected, I should still be slightly weaker than him? When he went all out, his peak strength was roughly 70% of Dongbo Shuiying's. Even though he had guessed it, the moment Dongbo Shuiying broke through, he would most likely become the strongest expert in Realm Heart Great Land. But reality still chilled Undying Underworld Emperor's heart. This time, I'm truly in danger. He could already smell the aura of death. Even though both parties had just started fighting, the disturbance created by Dongbo Shuiying had reached the final realm. He was using his chaotic origin weapon at full force, causing his combat power to be violent to the extreme. On the other side, Undying Underworld Emperor's strength was extraordinary too. How powerful was the clash between both parties? Even the palace which Undying Underworld Emperor prepared in peace was smashed apart. The ripples from the clash. It was instantly felt by all cosmos gods across the entire Realm Heart Great Land. What is happening? Such terrifying ripples? All of them were sensing the battle from afar. Some even relied on the heaven observation mirror to observe the battle. Some even relied on their own strength to observe from afar. Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, Emperor Tsong, Sword Master, Limitless City Master, Towering Sky King, and others were watching from afar. Originally, they felt bewildered. But when they saw the origin of the terrifying ripples, they were stunned. They saw 2 terrifying figures with surging auras. One was Monarch Feishue, and the other was the infamous Undying Underworld Emperor. And Undying Underworld Emperor was clearly injured. Chapter 1265. Pung, pung, pung. One could see shockwaves spreading in all directions at the region where Dongbo Shuiying and Undying Underworld Emperor fought. And at the core region of the battle, everything was shattered and blurry. Reaching their level, how fast were battles? In the blink of an eye, They could unleash dozens of killing techniques. The weak could not even see the battle clearly. And at this moment, the spectators were all apex experts in Realm Heart Great Land. They could see that Undying Underworld Emperor was at a complete disadvantage. He was even vomiting blood. His body was suffering from heavy injuries. It was a one-sided battle. The one who held the absolute advantage was Monarch Feishue, and the one who was in a terrible state was Undying Underworld Emperor. I don't stand a chance in a direct battle. Undying Underworld Emperor roared. Roar! An illusory figure suddenly erupted from his body. This was a huge illusory lion. This lion covered the world. Its power was so strong that it caused Dongbo Shui Ying's expression to change slightly. He looked up at this illusory lion. What technique is this? I have never heard of it in Realm Heart Great Land before. Is this a trump card that Undying Underworld Emperor used when he stepped on the Tao path to become a chaotic origin life form? The enormous illusory lion opened its mouth and devoured. The world turned dark. Unable to dodge, Shuang was swallowed in a single gulp. At the moment when he was devoured, Dongbo Shuang felt many wicked ripples assaulting his soul. It's just that being an existence that reached the apex in the Tao of Soul in many origin worlds, his defenses were naturally airtight. His soul energy formed an illusory realm that dissipated all incoming attacks. Those thoughts that were filled with resentment, death and slaughter were being dissipated. Peng! Dongbo Shuang remained clear-headed. He did not stop. Brandishing his spear, he charged out of this rapidly weakening illusory lion. It's really not affected at all. Undying Underworld Emperor's expression turned ugly when he saw that. He had originally cultivated the Tao of Death to the final realm. That time when he was attempting to become a chaotic origin life form, he had once met an expert from another civilization who had similarly reached a terrifying realm. That expert specialized in controlling death. After he fell, some of his treasures landed in the hands of Undying Underworld Emperor. Undying Underworld Emperor used his comprehension of the Tao of Death to control it. These moves are useless against me. Dongbo Shuang brandished his spear, bringing with it a boundless might. As the two sides fought, the difference in strength became more and more obvious. In the past, when Undying Underworld Emperor fought against the experts from the various civilizations, his strongest technique was the Death Walker, followed by the Golden Flame Heart. Naturally, other techniques like the Killing Curse Sacred Lion were becoming less and less important. In order to escape back to his hometown, the Death Walker had long since given up. The blood in Jin Yan's heart was constantly burning. More than half of it had already been burned. Moreover, he was clearly not a match for him in a head-on battle. Furthermore, Dongbo Shuang did not have any shortcomings. He was formidable in close combat. His soul technique was terrifying too, rendering all sorts of strange techniques of Undying Underworld Emperor useless. As a result, Undying Underworld Emperor was constantly injured during the battle. Good. Kill him. Kill this Undying Underworld Emperor. Monarch Feishue, kill him. In the entire Realm Heart Great Land, there were 6 great ancient nations and many Tier 2 and Tier 3 nations. There were even some organizations in the open or in the dark. Some were famous, and some were living in seclusion. At this moment, too many experts were rapidly watching the battle. They were even transmitting messages to their good friends, causing the number of experts watching the battle to rise. There might be a group of cultivators watching the battle from the Heaven Observation Mirror. Undying Underworld Emperor has such a day too, an old man said excitedly. Ever since he returned safely, I have been waiting for this day. Finally, this day has come. Congratulations, teacher. Monarch Feishue will definitely kill this Undying Underworld Emperor. The disciples by the side were congratulating their teacher. The original clan of their teacher had been exterminated by Undying Underworld Emperor. That was something that happened before the first war of the ancient nations. At this moment, many experts were clapping and cheering. They were even looking forward to it. Because Undying Underworld Emperor was ruthless in his actions. For his own selfish reasons, he would slaughter in all directions. In the legends, he represented death. Unparalleled existences had never been as crazy and cruel as Undying Underworld Emperor. As he wantonly slaughtered, he had already made too many enemies. Some of the weak cultivators in the past had become cosmos gods. But Undying Underworld Emperor did not care. Because he was the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. Those enemies did not dare to appear in front of him. Good. Southern Cloud Capital, within the Royal Palace. Southern Cloud King was looking at the floating heaven observation mirror. By the side, Old Mother Ying Shan, Monarch Greedy Peng, Monarch Chunyu, and others were either in their true bodies or incarnations. Junior disciple Brother Feishue, beautifully done. Monarch Greedy Peng could not help but praise. The others were also watching with excitement. Even though Southern Cloud King did not say anything, his eyes were emitting light. He hated the death of Undying Underworld Emperor too. He admitted that he had obtained the Twin Realm Blade by chance in the past. But firstly, he had experienced many dangers before getting it. Furthermore, Undying Underworld Emperor had threatened him several times to collect many precious materials. The price of the precious materials had long surpassed that of a top-graded secret treasure. If he acted, he would threaten to wipe out the entire Southern Cloud Capital. Such a threat naturally filled the heart of Southern Cloud King, who was an absolute hero. But he had no choice. He could not resist against Undying Underworld Emperor. Not just him. There were too many cultivators who wished for Undying Underworld Emperor to die. But all along, Undying Underworld Emperor had always been high above. Before the First War of the Ancient Nations, he was already the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. This time, after he returned, his name became even more famous. Even Emperor Summer admitted that he was weaker by a level. Like Southern Cloud King, he had given up previously. He felt that there was no hope, and could only allow himself to be squeezed dry. Those enemies of Undying Underworld Emperor could only store their hatred in their hearts. They did not even dare to think of taking revenge, because the gap was too big. Nevertheless, the scene today made them excited. Monarch Feishue, Ying Shan Snow Eagle, used his absolute power to injure Undying Underworld Emperor. The gap between them was clear. From today onwards, the position of the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land has changed. Emperor Summer stood within the royal palace watching from afar. He sighed. Just as what we expected, this Monarch Feishue has finally walked to the position of the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. Speaking of which, the scene of him becoming an upper honored guest of my fan clan is still vivid in my mind. Ancestor Fan sighed. It is natural for him to become the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. Emperor Tsong added from the side. In the entire Realm Heart Great Land, there is only this Monarch Feishue, who has a supreme secret impartation and a chaotic origin weapon. Furthermore, his soul technique has even shaken the entire Broken Teeth mountain range. By combining these two techniques, Undying Underworld Emperor could not resist at all. Sword Master, who stood by the side of the three, revealed a grin. Snow Eagle has hidden himself quite deeply. Currently in the world, the group of unparalleled existences and ordinary final realm cultivators felt that it was natural. Because this Monarch Feishue was too dazzling previously. When he was a level 2 cosmos god, any avatar of his could fight against final realm cultivators. His soul technique had caused the Broken Teeth mountain range to tremble. His chaotic origin weapon had also aroused the greed of others. He was absolutely the most terrifying level 2 cosmos god in the history of Realm Heart Great Land. Now that he had broken through to the final realm, he was also the most terrifying final realm cultivator. As the experts under the world watched the battle with complicated emotions, the injuries of Undying Underworld Emperor were worsening. Die! Undying Underworld Emperor screamed madly. Hung, countless insects appeared. They covered the world as they flew towards Dongbua Shueying. Dongbua Shueying stood there. With a thought, the consciousness of all insects were extinguished, causing them to fall down. Undying Underworld Emperor watched this with an ugly expression. He knew that it was pointless to release the poisonous insects which he had painstakingly collected. It was only because he was desperate that he took them out to try. Deep in his heart, he was still hoping for a miracle. What should I do? What should I do now? Undying Underworld Emperor gritted his teeth. I can't care anymore. I should survive first. At the very most, I'll just hide forever. South, the figure of undying underworld emperor tunneled into a dark corridor and disappeared from the vicinity. Escaping? He escaped. Undying underworld emperor has escaped. All the spectators understood this point. It seems he has completely admitted defeat. Many experts understood this point. This was commonly seen in the realm Heartgreat Land. Those final realm devils frequently used this technique. The moment they escaped, it would be hard for them to chase after them. No matter what, this battle has proven that the strongest expert in the realm Heartgreat Land will be this monarch Feishue from now on. As for undying underworld emperor, he should be escaping the moment he sees monarch Feishue. Many experts were already discussing with one another. They felt that this battle had ended. Unless he escaped, this matter has ended. There were some who wished for undying underworld emperor to die. They felt unwilling when they saw what happened. But they were clear. It was easy to defeat a final realm expert, but hard to kill one. Escape? Dongbua Shueying stood in midair. He wielded the chaotic origin weapon Azure River Spear. His consciousness had already fused into his ripples that covered every single region in the realm Heartgreat Land. For the sake of preventing undying underworld emperor from escaping, he even covered the territories of Emperor Summer, Drifter, and Limitless City Master. He could no longer care about alarming them. His domain covered every single region in the realm Heartgreat Land. Dongbua Shueying saw the escape trajectory of undying underworld emperor clearly. Chapter 1266. The absolute majority of experts felt that this battle had ended. Only a minority hoped for a miracle to happen. They wanted undying underworld emperor to die, and Emperor Summer, Drifter, and Limitless City Master were aware of the problem. This void domain has already covered the royal palace. Drifter is still in the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation, and is very far away from my Summer Wind Ancient Nation. It is impossible for him to cover this area. Then it can only be this monarch Feishue. Emperor Summer watched from afar. The place where he fought with Underworld Emperor is very far away from my Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Yet his void domain could cover such a long distance? Or is he relying on a large number of avatars to execute his domain? In reality, even if he relied on his avatars, his domain was far from sufficient. Dongbua Shueying's strongest avatar could only cover twice the area of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation by relying on a supreme secret importation, and he could at most maintain 9 peak avatars. There were many huge places in the realm Heartgreat Land. There were also vast oceans. For instance, the Icy Snow Ancient Nation was ridiculously huge. At one of the boundary regions of the realm Heartgreat Land, Hong Long Long, at the end of the land was a surging storm. Beyond the storm was the membrane wall of the origin world. I've escaped to the end. Undying Underworld Emperor stood by the boundary of the storm. He did not care about the terrifying storm. Instead, he felt slightly nervous. The distance between this place and the place where they fought is more than half the entire realm Heartgreat Land. There has never been anyone who could cover such a huge region just by relying on a domain. There are many boundary regions, and I've casually chosen this place. Even if Monarch Feishue has avatars, the possibility of me being discovered by his avatar domain is very low. Even if I were to be discovered once, I can escape again. As long as I escape out of his domain, he can't find me. Unless he can trace me. Given my realm and my control over my soul, I can prevent my aura from leaking out. Only Limitless City Master could trace me, and Limitless City Master has never been willing to participate in huge karma. Undying Underworld Emperor softly nodded. He felt that the possibility of Monarch Feishue finding him was very low. Emperor Hades, where are you going? A voice rang out. Undying Underworld Emperor could not help but tremble. He turned over, only to see a white-robed young man wielding a black spear arriving through the void. He was none other than that Monarch Feishue. Accompanying his arrival was the merciless spear technique of Dongbua Shueying. Undying Underworld Emperor had to ignite his heart blood to defend against several moves before tearing another path to escape. I've been discovered. Could it be that his avatar happened to be waiting here? Don't run anymore. Undying Underworld Emperor had just appeared in another forest by the boundary of Realm Heart Great Land, when a spear chased after him. It struck Undying Underworld Emperor's body until it tore apart. His body rapidly condensed back into darkness before escaping once again. Run, run, run. Undying Underworld Emperor tried to escape more than a dozen times. Gradually his heart turned cold, because even if the doppelgangers were enveloped by the domain, how could it be so coincidental that every time they escaped, they would be within the domain? He can trace people, or is Limitless helping him? Undying Underworld Emperor stopped. He stood at the edge of an ocean world. Turning around, he saw Dongbua Shuang rushing over once again. At this moment, the eyes of Undying Underworld Emperor were filled with resolution. As he parried against Dongbua Shuang's killing technique, he anxiously transmitted over. Monarch Feishue, do you want me to die? Then I'll let all living beings accompany me in death. Dongbua Shuang stopped. He did not continue attacking. Instead, he stood in midair looking at Undying Underworld Emperor. Accompany you in death? I truly admire you. You can trace me? Or did you persuade Limitless City Master to help you? The eyes of Undying Underworld Emperor were filled with madness. His soul was trembling. That was a frenzied trembling before death. Even though you are stronger than me, I can similarly let all living beings accompany me in death. Given your current injuries, how long can you last? Dongbua Shuang coldly said. You can try. Aren't you worried about those ants? Either you let me go, or I'll let all living beings accompany me in death. Undying Underworld Emperor growled. Dongbua Shuang looked at this Undying Underworld Emperor. This Underworld Emperor had indeed made him feel a strand of terror. Because this was a madman who had no worries. Furthermore, he was so strong that he was second only to Shuang. It was impossible for Shuang to allow the Ying Shan clan and other people whom he cared about to hide in Feishue City forever. But the moment they left, Undying Underworld Emperor might turn hostile in the blink of an eye. That would most likely result in another great massacre. I feel that letting you live will be a greater threat to the masses. Furthermore, I don't think you can kill too many cultivators in front of me. The eyes of Dongbua Shuang flashed. The spear in his hand directly pierced out. Hong! Monarch Feishue! The mad roar of Undying Underworld Emperor reverberated across the world. Because Undying Underworld Emperor was constantly escaping, and Dongbua Shuang was constantly chasing after him, their battlefields appeared across many places in Realm Heart Great Land. The disturbance caused by their battle was huge. The moment they fought, many experts in Realm Heart Great Land sensed it. They immediately turned to watch the battle. They had also seen the conversation between Dongbua Shuang and Undying Underworld Emperor. Undying Underworld Emperor threatened Monarch Feishue with the words all living beings will die with him. Yet Monarch Feishue still acted. Good. There were many experts who were cheering for Shuang when he acted, including Emperor Xia and the other powerhouses. They all sighed. They were startled that Undying Underworld Emperor was still being chased after no matter how he tried to escape. They were also lamenting that Undying Underworld Emperor, who stood above many cultivators, would most likely die soon. Beautiful. In Southern Cloud Capital, Southern Cloud King, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. He stared at the heaven observation mirror. When Undying Underworld Emperor escaped, he was afraid that Dongbua Shuang could not chase after him. But when Undying Underworld Emperor chased after him, he became excited. When Undying Underworld Emperor threatened Monarch Feishue with the words all living beings will die with him, Southern Cloud King became worried that his disciple would be soft-hearted. Finally, is he finally going to be freed? This madman is finally going to die. Southern Cloud King watched with anticipation. Amazing. Truly amazing. I actually have such a junior disciple brother. The strongest expert in Realm Heart Great Land is actually my junior disciple brother. Monarch Greedy Pung sighed. He is so terrifyingly powerful. I am actually his senior disciple's sister. Empress Ghostly praised from the side. Even Undying Underworld Emperor is about to be killed by Snow Eagle? Old Mother Ying Shan felt that everything was like a dream. She could still remember clearly. that genius young fellow from the lineage of Marquis Ardent Fire, from the Ying clan, who was born as a void god. The rise of this genius young fellow was simply too amazing. That time, this young fellow even wanted the spearhead of the Scarlet Cloud God spear. And it was she, Old Mother Ying, who bought it for him. After that, when the Ardent Fire City blood sacrifice happened, this Ying Snow Eagle, this prince, erupted with a terrifying combat power. He shocked the world with a single feat, and his name shook the Black Devil Four Nations and Black Devil Great Lake. A 10th level cultivator became an upper honored guest of the Fan clan. After becoming a cosmos god, he went to the Realm Heart God Palace and was killed by Eternal Night Primogenitor. Only then did he choose to remain low profile. This period of hibernation, instead, he acted with the identity of Heaven's Will Taoist, intimidating all devils under the world by himself. And now, he is even about to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Old Mother Ying muttered. Such an absolute expert actually came from my Ying clan. At this moment, Old Mother Ying was filled with joy and pride. When Undying Underworld Emperor was constantly being chased, he could not escape. Dongbo Shuang did not care about his threats. Many experts across the entire Realm Heart Great Land felt that Undying Underworld Emperor might really fall this time. Many were cheering and slapping the table. But Dongbo Shuang felt his heart aching, because he had to pay a price in order to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Die! Let us all die together. Undying Underworld Emperor escaped above a huge city, before taking the initiative to attack. Hong! The surging void ocean distorted. It was doing its best to resist against the attack of Undying Underworld Emperor. Dongbo Shuang once again came over. Even though he specialized in domain suppression, and was doing his best to chase after Undying Underworld Emperor at his fastest speed, a large number of beings were still killed. Many beings could not even react before they were killed. This made Dongbo Shuang even more furious. Even if he had to pay a price, he had to eliminate the other party. It seems he can't hold on any longer. Dongbo Shuang could ascertain that Undying Underworld Emperor was gravely injured. He should only be left with 20% of his life force. I can't hold on any longer. The current situation of Undying Underworld Emperor was much worse than what Dongbo Shuang expected, because he had to ignite his heart blood every time he fought. Even after igniting his heart blood, he still had 30% to 40% of Dongbo Shuang's strength. If he did not ignite his heart blood, he would only have 10% to 20% left. That way, he would die even faster. My heart blood is almost gone. The golden flame heart in his body was left with a pitiful 3 droplets of blood. Undying Underworld Emperor felt slight despair. Chapter 1267. I have no other choice. I can only seek for life and death. Undying Underworld Emperor gritted his teeth. Even though he did not wish to choose, the moment he ignited his heart blood, Dongbo Shuang would have an overwhelming advantage. He would no longer have a choice. Hong hong, when a pair of golden palms parried against the terrifying spear, the surrounding night sky had already shattered. Many pitch-black cracks could even be seen on the other end of the chaotic origin dimension. Chaotic origin energy could be seen seeping in through the cracks. That was a higher dimension, a place where only existences at a higher level of life could truly live. So, Undying Underworld Emperor did not hesitate. He directly charged into the chaotic origin dimension through the cracks. Amen. Dongbo Shuang's expression changed. But he did not hesitate. With a so, he similarly entered the chaotic origin dimension. What? Undying Underworld Emperor has escaped into the chaotic origin dimension? That monarch Feishua is chasing after him too? They did not execute the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. Instead, they are forcing their way in. Are they tired of living? One is chasing, and the other is escaping into the chaotic origin dimension? Didn't they say that those who have not jumped out of the cage would be corroded by the chaotic origin energy after entering the chaotic origin dimension? What do you know? How strong is Undying Underworld Emperor? Ordinary unparalleled existences aren't his opponent. That monarch Feishue is even more amazing than undying underworld emperor. Reaching their level, they should be able to survive for a short period in the chaotic origin dimension, right? The spectators across the entire realm Heart Great Land were dumbstruck. Killing his way into the chaotic origin dimension? Clearly, he was not seeking death. This had already surpassed their imaginations. In the opinion of ordinary cosmos gods, unless they had some unique movement techniques, they would definitely die if they entered the chaotic origin dimension with their fleshy bodies. Monarch Feishua's heart of killing undying underworld emperor is truly heavy. Emperor Summer watched from afar. He sighed. But he knew that once his fleshy body charged out of the origin world, as long as he did not stray too far away, he could still survive for a period. For instance, his chaotic origin refinement body was a cultivation technique that relied on the chaotic origin energy to refine his fleshy body. What is the current situation of the two of them? Ancestor Fan asked from the side. He did not know how the battle was going. The Grey Emperor and the Sword Master looked towards the Xia Emperor as well. Have a look. Emperor Summer waved his hand, causing a scene to appear by the side. It was the scene that happened in the chaotic origin dimension. When undying underworld emperor charged into the chaotic origin dimension, the surrounding chaotic origin energy was forced apart. Nevertheless, Dongbo Shueying, who wielded the Azure River spear, chased after him at an even faster speed. Currently, in the entire realm Heart Great Land, only a few could watch the battle. Even the majority of unparalleled existences could not. Snow Eagle, in the southern cloud nation, Old Mother Yingshan became anxious. Kill his way into the chaotic origin dimension? Impulsive, too impulsive. Southern Cloud King was incredibly worried. Even if he killed undying underworld emperor, he might accidentally die in battle, leaving his chaotic origin weapon in the chaotic origin dimension. By then, it would be too late for regrets. In the realm Heart Great Land, unparalleled existences relied on supreme graded secret treasures. The reason why Dongbo Shueying could reach his current combat power was partly because of his chaotic origin weapon. Naturally, he still had his mirage and illusory realm technique. I don't know what's going on. I can't even see anything. I don't even know what would happen after killing my way into the chaotic origin dimension. Many experts were anxious and nervous. This was the life and death battle between the two most terrifying existences in the entire realm Heart Great Land. They wanted to know the outcome. Within the chaotic origin dimension, Dongbo Shueying did not hesitate. He closely followed through the black crack into the chaotic origin dimension. After reaching the final realm, he spent 600 years consolidating his strength. During this period, he had tried creating the third level of chaotic origin refinement body. He had also taken the initiative to enter the chaotic origin dimension, because it was normal at this level. When his Azure River spear erupted, he could easily blast out an enormous hole that spanned 100 meters. Large amounts of chaotic origin energy surged in. It was not much different from being in the chaotic origin dimension himself. He sent an avatar into the chaotic origin dimension without bringing along his chaotic origin weapon. Because he had experience, undying underworld emperor did not hesitate to enter the chaotic origin dimension. He entered once again. Even though he had experience, he was still stunned and obsessed by it. The Tao of Void was very unique. It was more suited to pry into the mysteries of the chaotic origin dimension than most Tao paths. As Dongbo Shueying charged in, he used his Azure River spear to control the surrounding chaotic origin energy and split it apart. Nonetheless, the chaotic origin energy was endless. Some of it still touched his fleshy body. The moment it touched his fleshy body, it rapidly corroded away. His fleshy body was like air. The chaotic origin energy directly penetrated through his fleshy body and soul. The process of penetrating was also the process of corrosion. Because he had the Azure River spear to control it. Furthermore, the final realm Tao of Void had reached an unfathomable stage in his control of voidification. Hence, he could minimize the corrosion of his fleshy body, causing the thin chaotic origin energy to have a weak effect on his chaotic origin refinement body. His recovery speed was sufficient for him to recover. Realm Heart Great Land. This was an enormous origin world. It was vast. It was emitting endless ripples that were constantly clashing against the surrounding chaotic origin energy. In reality, the chaotic origin energy was also influenced by the power of the Realm Heart Great Land. The closer one was to the Realm Heart Great Land, the thinner the chaotic origin energy would be. The further one was, the deeper one went into the chaotic origin dimension, and the more vast the chaotic origin energy would be. The power of an origin world was extremely powerful. Hence, even if it was a chaotic origin life form, if they controlled an origin world and relied on that origin world, they would still be able to greatly improve their strength. After all, it was something that gathered an incomparably vast world energy into a single body. He really killed his way over. Undying Underworld Emperor glanced at Dongbua Shuang, who was chasing after him. His expression turned ugly. Then come. For the sake of killing me, are you willing to give up this avatar of yours? Once this avatar is gone, this chaotic origin weapon will be gone too. Undying Underworld Emperor continued charging forward in a frenzy. When he just charged out of the Realm Heart Great Land, the surrounding chaotic origin energy was slightly less concentrated. Furthermore, the supreme law of the Realm Heart Great Land was still affecting the surroundings, preventing the corrosion from being too strong. As he continued moving forward, the area ahead became darker and quieter. The chaotic origin energy became denser and denser. It was constantly scouring through the fleshy body and soul of Undying Underworld Emperor. His fleshy body and soul were constantly being corroded. You can't escape. A furious roar actually reached the ears of Undying Underworld Emperor through the chaotic origin energy. A spear had already smashed down in front of Undying Underworld Emperor. So fast! Undying Underworld Emperor felt incredibly anxious and unwilling. That time when he left the Realm Heart Great Land, it was because he obtained the opportunity to charge into the Tao of chaotic origin that he was bestowed with the movement technique by Yuan. That was how he could travel through the chaotic origin dimension. But after spending so much time in the external world, his fear towards the chaotic origin dimension had gradually decreased. He had even entered the chaotic origin dimension many times. He had experience. He even pondered over many techniques. He felt that compared to this new final realm expert, he should have some advantage when fighting in the chaotic origin dimension, even if the other party was a Tao of Void expert. But he was wrong. Firstly, Dongbua Shuang had acquired the chaotic origin Tao scroll before. This was a cultivation technique that Emperor Summer used the chaotic origin energy to cultivate his fleshy body. Dongbua Shuang had attempted to perfect it. He had even taken the initiative to enter the chaotic origin dimension before. Furthermore, using the chaotic origin energy to cultivate his fleshy body would be more effective when resisting against the denser chaotic origin energy. Secondly, the Tao of Void was the most advantageous in the chaotic origin dimension. No matter if it was voidification of the fleshy body to reduce the impact or flight speed, it could be used to great effect. Instead, it was other Taos that were significantly weaker in the chaotic origin dimension. Thirdly, the chaotic origin weapon Azure River Spear was able to control the chaotic origin energy, allowing Dongbua Shuang to survive for a longer period in the chaotic origin dimension. Due to these reasons, Dongbua Shuang was able to rapidly catch up to him. Pung! The spear came smashing down. Undying Underworld Emperor simply used both his hands to block the incoming force, allowing this powerful smash to send him flying further away. He was getting further and further away from the Realm Heart Great Land, this enormous origin world. Come if you are daring, come. Continue coming. Enter deeper into the chaotic origin dimension. As Undying Underworld Emperor was flying backwards, he was still staring at Dongbua Shuang. He was becoming more and more frenzied. Chapter 1268. Dongbua Shuang felt that as he flew, even though he turned around, the origin world Realm Heart Great Land was still very close behind him. But that was because the Realm Heart Great Land was too huge. The location where they fought was still affected by the energy coming from the realm Heart Great Land. But as they flew at high speeds, they could feel the density of the chaotic origin energy continuously increasing. This density had far exceeded what he could use during cultivation. Fortunately, he had the control of the Azure River Spear, allowing the chaotic origin energy to form a path that minimized the corrosion. Hong hong hong. Dongbo Shuiying's speed was incredibly fast. He did not show any mercy the moment he caught up. As for Undying Underworld Emperor, he did not care about his life. Nevertheless, his fleshy body gradually changed color, turning grayish-white. He can't hold on any longer. Dongbo Shuiying revealed a joyous look. He actually can't hold on any longer. Previously, the battle in the realm Heart Great Land has heavily injured me. If my body was in perfect condition, I could still hold on for a longer period. At this moment, many scenes flashed through the mind of Undying Underworld Emperor. Ever since he rose from being weak to become a hegemon in the realm Heart Great Land, he was dazzling. He struck fear in many experts across the entire realm Heart Great Land, thinking that he was the incarnation of death. His strength was even favored by Yuan. He was even filled with confidence when he stepped on the path to become a chaotic origin life form. He left his hometown. Only after he left did he understand that there was always a sky beyond the sky. Beyond geniuses, there were even more geniuses. He failed. Just like the majority of experts from civilizations, some died, and some were even exiled. It was already fortunate that he could escape back. Even after escaping back, I've met this monster Monarch Feishue. Ignoring everything else, his soul technique is the most terrifying I've ever seen. Undying Underworld Emperor looked at Dongbo Shuiying before grinning. That grayish-white face of his, that was filled with a decaying aura, caused Dongbo Shuiying to be slightly startled. Dongbo Shuiying had a premonition. So, Undying Underworld Emperor's body abruptly transformed into a dark light. He then began escaping. Escaping? You are still thinking of escaping at this moment? Even though the other party's body had been corroded to the point of death, the other party could still survive if he escaped. Swoosh. Dongbo Shuiying instantly executed his Great World Destruction teleportation technique as well. After reaching the final realm, he was able to execute the Great World Destruction teleportation technique with his physical body. Phew. He chased after the position of Undying Underworld Emperor, and soon caught up to him. 2 escape techniques. Clearly, the Void Dao's Great Destruction Realm Evasion technique was faster. Die. At the moment when he caught up to Undying Underworld Emperor, a spear lashed out at the body of Undying Underworld Emperor, blasting him out of the passage. While traveling, they couldn't be attacked. Dongbo Shuiying naturally exited the passage as well. Chi. Even though Shuiying was long prepared, and had relied on the Azure River Spear to control the surrounding chaotic origin energy, he was still unable to do so. But the surrounding chaotic origin energy was too horrifying. Although it was just a blink of an eye, the distance between them was 1,000 times greater than when they were flying in pursuit at the beginning. Previously they were still very close to the realm Heart Great Land. But now they were much further away from the realm Heart Great Land. Dongbo Shuiying relied on the Azure River Spear to control the chaotic origin energy, yet he could feel the surrounding chaotic origin energy becoming incredibly heavy. It was more than 1,000 times heavier than before. Large amounts of chaotic origin energy were sweeping across his fleshy body and soul, causing his fleshy body to be corroded. His skin had even turned grayish-white. This grayish-white was even permeating into his body. Instead, the damage done to his soul was much lower. Under this corrosion, even with the help of the Azure River Spear, my fleshy body can only last for a breath of time. My soul can instead last for a few dozen breaths. Dongbo Shuiying immediately understood this point. South he closely followed up. The spear in his hand rapidly pierced out. His spear expanded. Pu-chi! It directly pierced through the chest of Undying Underworld Emperor. Undying Underworld Emperor's fleshy body could no longer withstand the corrosion before executing his movement technique. At this moment, under this much denser chaotic origin energy, the insides of his body began collapsing. This spear pierced through him, He did not even have the strength to resist. Instead, his body completely collapsed. Pung! When he was pierced through, Undying Underworld Emperor stared at Dongbu Shuang. Following that, his body completely collapsed and dissipated within the chaotic origin dimension. The robe he was wearing had become tattered under the corrosion. Even his storage Eden treasures were similarly corroded, revealing many items within. Many items were also rapidly corroding. Only a few could remain intact in the chaotic origin dimension. For instance, unique materials like that chaotic origin lifeform corpse, or the crown of Undying Underworld Emperor. That was his supreme graded secret treasure, the Death Emperor crown. Who? Dongbu Shuang waved his hand. He controlled the void to keep these items. At the same time, he grabbed that Death Emperor crown with a single hand. He looked down at the Death Emperor crown. This was the supreme graded secret treasure that Undying Underworld Emperor used to shake the world. It was also the proof that he killed Undying Underworld Emperor. Relying on this, he would be able to intimidate the world. He could even kill Undying Underworld Emperor. How could those devils compare to Undying Underworld Emperor? Who? Dongbu Shuang immediately executed the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. He rapidly teleported towards the distant realm Heart Great Land. In a short period, his skin and part of his muscles had turned grayish-white. This corrosion speed was too fast. Emperor Summer, Drifter, Limitless City Master, and several other unparalleled existences were watching the battle between Dongbu Shuang and Undying Underworld Emperor outside the realm Heart Great Land. In the end, the body of Undying Underworld Emperor turned grayish-white. He continued fleeing deeper into the chaotic origin dimension, using his movement technique. They could no longer watch the battle. The body of Undying Underworld Emperor has been corroded to the point where it can no longer hold on. Monarch Feishua has really chased after him? They watched as Dongbu Shuang continued using the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. They could not help but feel shocked. This time, he is determined to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. But isn't this too reckless? Even though one was chasing and the other was fleeing, in reality, they are still very close to the origin world of the realm Heart Great Land. But now that he is using his movement technique, even if it is only for a moment, he would travel very far away. That is truly deep within the chaotic origin dimension. The corrosion over there is much more frightening. Given the current state of Undying Underworld Emperor's fleshy body, as long as Monarch Feishua slightly disturbs his movement technique, Undying Underworld Emperor would undoubtedly die. If Monarch Feishua chased after him, Undying Underworld Emperor would definitely die. But can Monarch Feishua return alive? Even though he has many avatars, this avatar of his has a chaotic origin weapon. Emperor Summer and the others became nervous. They took the initiative to form a screen, allowing Emperor Tsong, Ancestor Fan, Sword Master, and other unparalleled existences to see it. Everyone was having a unique thought process. On one aspect, they were startled at the strength of Monarch Feishua. They felt that he could kill the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, Undying Underworld Emperor, to such an extent. Furthermore, he seemed to know the tracing technique that prevented Undying Underworld Emperor from escaping. Such a technique could kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Most likely he could kill other unparalleled existences in the world. Even if Monarch Feishua had many avatars, he could still kill all the avatars of the enemies. The enemies could only survive if they hid their avatars in other origin worlds. Such a deterrent force, it was sufficient to frighten the world. Much less the devils, even unparalleled existences would feel pressured. It is fine if Monarch Feishua is powerful. More importantly, it is pointless to hide one's tracks in front of him. Emperor Summer sighed. Previously, an ordinary final realm expert could wreak havoc in the world precisely because the moment he concealed his tracks, even I can't trace him. The only one who could trace him, Limitless City Master, isn't willing to participate. It's just that Monarch Feishua doesn't just have the strength to kill, he also has the tracing ability. It is impossible to escape from him. But if he doesn't have his chaotic origin weapon, his deterrent force will be greatly reduced. Emperor Summer said. This time, he is still slightly rash in his pursuit. The reason why Dongbua Shuang dared to pursue after Monarch Feishue with his movement technique was because the corrosive effect on him was minimal. But Monarch Feishue usually wouldn't do things unless he was confident. Like previously when he tried to kill Undying Underworld Emperor, he didn't act because he could not invite Limitless City Master. Ancestor Fan said. Since he dared to chase after Monarch Feishue, he should be confident. If he killed Undying Underworld Emperor and brought the chaotic origin weapon back to the realm Heart Great Land, that would be terrifying. Emperor Tsong sighed. I doubt there would be anyone in the entire realm Heart Great Land who doesn't revere him. Yes. Emperor Summer nodded. Reaching that stage, he did not have the confidence to resist against Dongbua Shui, even in his territory in the capital. Even he, Emperor Summer, felt the same. Other unparalleled existences could not fight against this Monarch Feishue even in their territories. Amen. This is the unparalleled existences across the entire realm Heart Great Land, and a large number of cosmos gods sensed it almost at the same time. Many heaven observation mirrors immediately turned towards the origin of that terrifying fluctuation. Hung. That was a figure that forcefully blasted through the membrane of the origin world, blasting out an enormous black hole spanning several hundred meters. The white-robed Dongbua Shuang held onto the Azure River spear in one hand, and the Death Emperor crown in the other. Crown? Death Emperor crown? That is the Death Emperor crown of Undying Underworld Emperor. Seeing Monarch Feishue returning with the Azure River spear, many unparalleled existences felt their hearts trembling. The beautiful dream of this Monarch Feishue losing his Azure River spear was gone. After all, nobody was willing to have a terrifying existence that could threaten their lives appear above their heads. And many cosmos gods trembled when they saw that Death Emperor crown. They understood. That was the supreme graded secret treasure of Undying Underworld Emperor. One could easily imagine the fate of Undying Underworld Emperor when his supreme graded secret treasure fell into the hands of Dongbua Shuang. He is back! He is back! In Southern Cloud Nation, Southern Cloud King, Old Mother Ying Shan, and others were incredibly excited. Terrifying. Undying Underworld Emperor is finally dead. He is finally dead. Many experts across the entire realm Heart Great Land felt their hearts trembling. Yama Religion Master from Black Devil Great Lake looked at the heaven observation mirror. That white-robed figure holding onto the Death Emperor crown with the Azure River spear in the other hand side. From today onwards, the realm Heart Great Land has entered a new era. An era that belongs to Monarch Feishue. An era where devils no longer exist. End of this chapter, the 36th chapter, final chapter, ended. Tomorrow, they would stop updating for a day to plan the plot. The 37th chapter would be updated the day after tomorrow. Chapter 1269. Eternal Night Primogenitor and Extreme Night Primogenitor stood side by side. Their capes were fluttering in the wind. They were both watching the source of that terrifying disturbance. The black hole in the membrane wall of the origin world. A white-robed figure flew in from the black hole. He held the Azure River spear in one hand, and the Death Emperor crown in the other. That unseen killing intent could be felt even from a great distance away. Fortunately, Eternal Night, you have lowered your head previously. Extreme Night Primogenitor chuckled. Otherwise, the next unparalleled existence to die after Undying Underworld Emperor would be you. Right. Eternal Night Primogenitor was watching too. His eyes were faintly filled with golden light. Fortunately, I have lowered my head. I expected that the moment he reached the final realm, he would be able to suppress Undying Underworld Emperor in the Tao of Void. Under his soul technique, my strength was greatly reduced. Even in the Eternal Night City, I would most likely lose my life. Who would have thought that even Undying Underworld Emperor was killed so easily? Even though there were some twists and turns in the process, the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land had died so quickly. It was still too straightforward. Underworld Emperor is very formidable. At the very end, he used all sorts of techniques that I could not see through. I even felt that he was a huge threat. Extreme Knight Primogenitor chuckled. It's just that his techniques are useless against Monarch Flying Snow. From today onwards, there is an additional deterrent spear above our heads. If we were to go back on our words, he could easily kill us. Eternal Knight Primogenitor mocked himself. They were unparalleled existences. Even ordinary Final Realm existences were free and unfettered. Sometimes they could do whatever they wanted. So what if they massacred an entire city? So what if they used blood sacrifice? Regardless, they were not afraid of anything. Nobody could threaten their lives. Even the high and mighty Yuan could not be bothered to care about ants, as long as it did not affect the order of the entire realm Heart Great Land. But now they no longer dared to do whatever they wanted. It was pointless even if they hid in their territories. The territories had to construct many huge arrays. The more top-graded the array, the greater the price. After reaching the unparalleled level, they had to increase their strength further? The price was too high. Like Emperor Summer and Eternal Knight Primogenitor, they were quite formidable in their territories. Yet the increase in their strength would not be too exaggerated. That was because it was impossible for them to construct enough top-graded arrays endlessly. The weaker they were, the more exaggerated the increase. Ordinary Ultimate Realm cultivators did not have paramount secret treasures, so their combat strength was relatively weak. The help of the magic formation in the nest was more obvious. In the nest, he could have the combat power of the invincible realm. Just like Dongbua Shuaying. Reaching his current stage, the price of constructing arrays suitable for his current realm in his territory was ridiculously high. It was hard to find materials that could withstand the 7th strike of the chaotic origin 7 strikes. Undying Underworld Emperor felt awkward too. If he did not care about the price to construct his territory, the strength unleashed by relying on the territory might not be as effective as igniting his heart blood. What's more, even if they had to pay a huge price to build their nest and defend it, even if the effect was comparable to the burning of heart blood, Dongbua Shuaying would send a large group of world lords to surround him, and he would still have to run for his life. Become stronger. Strange soul technique. It can also easily summon a large group of world lords. The invincible existences were all fearful and in awe. This shockingly talented monarch Flying Snow was absolutely the strongest Final Realm expert, with the greatest deterrence in history. After killing Underworld Emperor, he took the initiative to blast apart the membrane of the origin world, creating a huge disturbance. He even deliberately held onto the Death Emperor crown. It seems he is planning to intimidate the world. Following this, the realm Heart Great Land is going to change. Many experts could vaguely guess what would happen after seeing how Dongbua Shuaying deliberately held onto the Death Emperor crown. Reality was as such. Other than the great devils who had long lowered their heads and sworn oaths, the other arrogant and egotistical existences originally wanted to observe the situation. They were not willing to lower their heads and swear oaths to bind themselves. But it was too late for them to beg for mercy now. Monarch, I am willing to swear an oath. Too late. Monarch, I have stopped killing. I have never killed. But you have killed in the past. Just a single night. It caused the entire realm Heart Great Land to change color. Some of the famous devils on the list were at the Paragon Master level. As long as they did not lower their heads and swear an oath before he fought with Undying Underworld Emperor, they would be able to do so. They would no longer have the chance to do so. Dongbua Shuaying stood in the night sky looking at the annihilated devil. If I were to spare you, who would spare the trillions and trillions of sentient beings that you massacred? Towards the devils including Eternal Knight Primogenitor, Moonflower King, 8 Silk Island Master, and many other great devils, Dongbua Shuaying wanted to kill all of them, because the blood on the hands of these devils was simply too much. But previously, he did not have sufficient strength before he reached the final realm. Many great devils could guess that the moment this monarch Feishua broke through to the final realm, it would be their doomsday. Many came to lower their heads. If Shuaying did not give them a chance to live, these great devils would likely turn mad. Hence, they could only compromise. As long as he lowered his head and swore an oath, he would let bygones be bygones. Now, I have the power to punish. beg for mercy. Dongbo Shuiying's heart was extremely cold. Without killing enough, how are we going to intimidate the later generations? How do we change the era? Cosmos god-level devils would either lower their heads and swear an oath, or those who did not would be exterminated. After the terrifying day known as the Devil Extermination Night, the atmosphere in the entire Realm Heart Great Land changed drastically. In the entire Realm Heart Great Land, there was no longer any blood sacrifice, because only the few apex devils knew how to refine the essence of blood spirit. Since they did not dare to do evil, it was meaningless to sacrifice countless sentient beings. Moreover, there was no such devil who dared to court death. Once the demon was discovered, he would definitely die. There was no need for Dongbo Shuiying to make a move. Many experts who could not stand the sight of evil took the initiative to attack. Times have really changed. He has truly changed the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Many cosmos gods could not help but be startled as they watched the transformation of the Realm Heart Great Land. As time passed, in the Realm Heart Great Land, many new generations of cultivators were startled. What? There was a blood sacrifice in the past. A city with trillions of sentient beings was directly massacred by the blood sacrifice? Is this real or fake? The great devils in the past could easily kill trillions of sentient beings? That's impossible. How could there be such a crazy devil? They did not believe it since they had never seen it. Because the current Realm Heart Great Land was a devil that everyone wanted to kill. The moment a devil was discovered, there would be a group of cultivators who would take the initiative to kill them. All of them had a strong sense of justice. In reality, before the rise of Dongbo Shuiying, the so-called devils could only be considered small fries in the gathering grounds of those devils. Wretched green old devil, you can't escape from us. Many training teams have been wiped out one after another. The few of us thought that it was someone who met danger and died. Who would have thought that it was you, you old devil? You should just die. 7 figures chased after a green-robed old man who was fleeing in panic. And on top of a mountain far away, 2 figures were currently standing there. One was the white-robed Dongbo Shuiying, and the other was the loose black-robed Emperor Summer. The 2 of them stood side by side as they watched everything happening. Haha, Feishue, you are truly amazing. It seems like it was just yesterday that you killed Undying Underworld Emperor. Currently, the atmosphere in the entire Realm Heart Great Land has completely changed. Previously, I did not dare to imagine that the Realm Heart Great Land would turn into what it is today. Emperor Summer chuckled. Even this person is called an old devil? He is even being chased after by others. What do you mean it was just yesterday? It has been more than 200 billion years. Dongbo Shuiying could not help but retort. To Emperor Summer, it might be a short period, but to him, Dongbo Shuiying, it was a relatively long period. 200 billion years. That was sufficient for many generations of primal chaos geniuses to rise. Currently, the number of sentient beings in the Realm Heart Great Land was much more than in the past. Because a small city was relatively safe, it was rare to see even primal chaos devils. 200 billion years is indeed a short period. Emperor Summer sighed. But speaking of which, I quite like this world. The 37th chapter, On the Road, began. The new chapter had just begun, and one had to spend more time thinking and preparing. Chapter 1270. I like this kind of world as well. Dongbo Shuiying stood at the top of the mountain, looking at the vast world around him with a smile on his face. In the past, he had wanted to change the entire world, so that demons could no longer run amok. Even he himself had thought that this goal was too far away. In fact, there weren't many who thought highly of him. At that time, the experts in Realm Heart Great Land were already used to the order of that era. They were used to how final realm experts were free and unfettered, and nobody could threaten them. However, everything changed. But do you see the danger behind us? Emperor Xia asked. Hidden danger? Dongbo Shuiying was taken aback. Population. Although the rate at which cultivators reproduce is very slow, and generally speaking, it is safer to live within cities. Cities have limited space as well. However, after 200 billion years, more and more cities were being built, and the number of cultivators was also increasing. The burden on the Realm Heart Great Land is getting bigger and bigger. According to what I know, the Realm Heart Great Land is different from other origin worlds. Other origin worlds would experience a great apocalypse, and everything would return to the beginning. But the Realm Heart Great Land is created by Yuan. It is an eternal existence, and it would not be destroyed by the great apocalypse. Nevertheless, the population keeps increasing, and it is impossible for the Realm Heart Great Land to withstand it indefinitely. Dongbo Shuang nodded, yes. Now that 200 billion years have passed, the additional burden is still within the scope that the Realm Heart Great Land can endure. But as this continues, there will be a day when the Realm Heart Great Land retaliates. Emperor Summer said. Or perhaps Yuan has set a new law. Regardless, he will definitely suppress the population of the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Haha, Yuan has set the rules. He won't massacre everyone directly, Dongbo Shuang said. For instance, the Realm Heart God Palace prepared opportunities and supreme graded secret treasures for the final realm cultivators. Clearly, Yuan still left plenty of opportunities for the weak. The Xia Emperor nodded slightly. The two of them did not say anything else, because they could not tell what Yuan would do. Perhaps it would be more merciful, such as directly changing the rules and making it much more difficult for cultivators to reproduce. It was naturally difficult to expand the population like this. It could also be even crueler, where the strong preyed on the weak. Everything was possible. Let's go. The two of them immediately vanished into thin air. In the Fan Clan Magic Mountain. Teacher, I've flipped through the scriptures within the clan, and know that our Fan Clan has the Burning Heart God Tree. It is of great help to those who cultivate in the Tao of Soul. Currently, I am just a step away from breaking through to the Cosmos God realm. Is it possible for me to cultivate under the Burning Heart God Tree? A young man asked the black-robed old man by his side. Heart-burning divine tree? The black-robed old man glared at him. My Fan Clan is currently benefiting from that monarch Feishue. Our treasures and opportunities have increased by quite a bit. How about this? I will send you to the Illusion Demon Hall. As for the Burning Heart God Tree, you can forget about it. The youth hastily said. Why? I flipped through the books, and it was recorded in the books that ever since the Patriarch created the non-phase mystical technique under the Burning Heart Divine Tree, he rarely used the Burning Heart Divine Tree to cultivate. The disciples in the clan should be able to exchange for it, but I couldn't find this item on the exchange scroll. That's right, the black-robed old man said. Now that Imperial Emperor Feishue is cultivating under the Burning Heart Divine Tree. Emperor Feishue. The youth's eyes widened. Monarch Feishue. Currently, his influence in Realm Heart Great Land was too huge. He was publicly acknowledged as the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. That was someone who forcefully climbed to the top after killing the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, Undying Underworld Emperor. It made unparalleled existences and ordinary final realm cultivators tremble in fear. Many cultivators worshipped this monarch Feishue. For instance, the Summer Wind Ancient Nation had a good relationship with monarch Feishue, allowing them to obtain many benefits. Currently, their reputation was even stronger than the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation. Do you understand now? I'll send you to the Illusion Demon Hall. As for the Burning Heart God Tree, don't think about it temporarily. Wait until that monarch Feishue leaves. By then you will have a chance. The black-robed old man persuaded. Teacher, you said that monarch Feishue is in our Fan Clan Magic Mountain? I have been living here, yet I did not know about it. The young man was incredibly excited. Teacher, can I pay a visit to him? When he was young, he had grown up listening to the stories of this monarch Feishue. Pay a visit? Monarch Feishue is currently meditating and cultivating. Do you think we can disturb him? The black-robed old man snorted. Old ancestor has already ordered us not to disturb him. Oh, the young man felt his heart itching when he heard that. Teacher, can you tell me where is the Burning Heart God Tree? The young man asked. The black-robed old man shook his head with a smile. He pointed in a direction. Over there. The young man looked afar. His eyes were filled with excitement and expectation. Over there. Over at the Fan Clan Magic Mountain. The #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, Monarch Feishue, was currently cultivating there. In reality, the majority of Cosmos gods knew that Monarch Feishue had a close relationship with the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. For instance, Monarch Feishue and Emperor Summer would frequently discuss the Tao together. The two would occasionally drink wine together, and would occasionally appear at a certain location in Realm Heart Great Land to spar. The two of them were final realm experts in the Tao of Void. Furthermore, both of them had obtained a supreme graded secret impartation. Hence, it was of great help to the other when they interacted. For instance, the relationship between Monarch Feishue and Ancestor Fan had long been known. Ancestor Fan had even deliberately spread the news to let all Cosmos gods know that Monarch Feishue had an avatar cultivating on the Fan Clan Magic Mountain. This made many Cosmos gods feel envious and jealous, because they desired to interact with this Monarch Feishue. Because Monarch Feishue was not only powerful, his influence in Broken Teeth Mountain Range was huge, and he had many treasures and opportunities. Did they not see how Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, and Emperor Tsong benefiting from this? Did they not see how Southern Cloud King could walk unhindered? Did they not see how Old Mothering Shan had broken through to the Cosmos God realm? Who, under the Burning Heart God tree, a white-robed Dombush wearing sat cross-legged. The violet leaves were drifting down with the wind. He opened his eyes. They were filled with a strand of regret. I still haven't succeeded. Dombush Ying muttered to himself. That time when I observed the thousand-eyed water droplet was too short. If I could comprehend it thoroughly, I might have created the third Tao of Mirage and illusory realm killing technique. Such a long period. He had already explored the sky-floating islands with the mysterious eyes in Broken Teeth Mountain Range. He had also memorized the structure of the illusory realm world within those mysterious eyes. That time, he finally comprehended the first Tao of Mirage and illusory realm killing technique, according to the structure of the illusory realm world of the Grey Eyes. Resplendent illusory realm. Because the golden eyes had scoured through the entire place, 80 billion years after he killed Undying Underworld Emperor, he created the second Tao of Mirage and illusory realm killing technique. Illusory realm killing intent. Just as I expected, these two killing techniques can't be used against a single enemy at the same time. Dombush Ying shook his head. The resplendent illusory realm was used to lure the enemy into falling into oblivion. The illusory realm killing intent was used to destroy the soul of the enemy. Even if it could not kill the enemy, it would injure them. The two were entirely different illusory realms. The soul of the enemy could only enter the same illusory realm at the same time. Unless my illusory realm could contain both resplendent and killing intent at the same time. But that is too difficult. Dombush Ying wanted to see the thousand-eyed water droplet again, because the structure of the thousand-eyed water droplet was a vast thousand-eyed world. Great Emperor North River. When Dombush Ying thought of this, he felt slightly unwilling. If he had the thousand-eyed water droplet, he might have created the third killing technique. The third killing technique was a perfect fusion of the previous two killing techniques. He might even be able to reach the final realm, in the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm. Of course, it might not be that easy to reach the final realm. He had to overcome many obstacles. But at least by creating it, his understanding of the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm would deepen by another level. But all of this was destroyed. This great Emperor North River has entered the Snake Tooth Corridor and never returned. Dombush Ying thought. Is he afraid of me taking revenge? That is why he is staying inside. As long as the energy within the thousand-eyed water droplet is exhausted, he would have to come out. Otherwise, he would never come out. Even if he came out, the thousand-eyed water droplet would most likely dissipate because of the energy within it being exhausted. Thousand-eyed water droplet. During these years, Dombush Ying had visited many sky-floating islands. Yet he had never obtained a single thousand-eyed water droplet or snake-tooth bead. In history, it was hard to obtain these two supreme treasures. Most of them were obtained by the 5 Great Supremes. Previously at the Black Leaf Lake, there was only a suppression directed at the soul. There were no other dangers. That was why he could obtain a 1,000-eyed water droplet. Am I not fated to obtain another 1,000-eyed water droplet? Forget it. Even if I don't, I can still create one. Perhaps this way, I can deepen my understanding of the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm. Dongbo Shuiying could only console himself. He calmed himself down and continued cultivating, pondering over how to fuse the 2 killing techniques of the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm. Chapter 1271. Feishua City Monarch Residence. Under a pavilion by the lake, Dongbo Shuiying and Emperor Summer were seated opposite each other. The two were currently discussing about Tao. The chaotic origin refinement body is something I created. Younger brother Feishua, you must believe me. Emperor Summer anxiously said. Using the chaotic origin dimension as the mother to nurture and condense a fleshy body, I believe the moment it is formed, it would become a fleshy body at the chaotic origin life form level. This Tao is the true Tao. We have tried many times. Furthermore, I feel that if we want to take a single step from the final realm to directly possess a fleshy body at the chaotic origin level, or even become a chaotic origin life form, isn't it too easy to become a chaotic origin? Dongbo Shuiying added. I feel that it isn't that easy to break through using force. I don't think it is easy. Using the chaotic origin dimension as the mother to nurture and condense a fleshy body is inherently difficult. I hope that brother Feishua can help me. The two of us can study this Tao together. Emperor Summer said. Using the dimension as the mother, this first step is something I can't take. Dongbo Shuiying shook his head. Emperor Summer, you and I will walk our own path. Let's see who can ultimately create the true 3rd level of the chaotic origin refinement body. Emperor Summer could not help but shake his head when he heard that. During these 200 billion years, the two of them frequently discussed about Tao. What they talked about the most was the 3rd level of the chaotic origin refinement body in the chaotic origin Tao scroll. This cultivation technique was originally created by Emperor Summer. It's a pity that Emperor Summer had only created the first 2 levels of the chaotic origin refinement body. Dongbo Shuiying had a supreme secret importation, chaotic origin 7 strikes. He had many unique techniques to fuse the Tao of void and chaotic origin energy. Hence, he had already perfected the original foundation of Emperor Summer. After reaching the final realm, he even wanted to create the 3rd level of the chaotic origin refinement body. Furthermore, ever since he created his soul-killing technique, his soul had influenced his fleshy body. This gave him some direction to improve his fleshy body. The two of them had gained a lot from their exchange, because Emperor Summer had a supreme secret impartation that was also related to the Tao of Void, Void Blossom. Dongbo Shuiying's supreme secret impartation was the chaotic origin 7 strikes. It was a perfect match with the chaotic origin weapon Azure River Spear. The two of them had different supreme secret impartations. Moreover, neither of them could leak their supreme secret impartations, so they could only clash with each other in terms of their train of thought. They communicated for a long time. The two of them were still fine at the start. They had even created the initial version of the 3rd level of the chaotic origin refinement body. This was an imperfect version. Even if it was incomplete, it still allowed their fleshy bodies to reach a level comparable to Grand Perfection Kings. In other words, just by relying on their fleshy bodies, they had the strength of unparalleled existences like Eternal Night Primogenitor. Because they had created the first edition, the two of them were full of fighting spirit and saw the hope of jumping out of the cage. The two of them often communicated and studied together. However, gradually there were still disagreements, and the divergence was getting bigger and bigger. How difficult is this path? If I walk alone, how will I be able to break through it? If the two of us work together, you and I might be able to break through together. Emperor Summer sighed. He discovered that Dongbo Shuiying's talent was incredibly high. He was able to find many breakthroughs in the body cultivation aspect. If he, Emperor Summer, were to explore by himself. Even though he had the supreme secret impartation void flower blossom, he could achieve the first step of using the chaotic origin dimension as the womb. But condensing a fleshy body was the hardest step. He did not have the confidence to do so. He wanted to pull Dongbua Shuang along with him on this path. But Dongbua Shuang clearly wanted to walk on a path he was confident of. We have sufficient time to walk our own paths. If I fail in the future, I'll try the path you, Emperor Summer pointed out. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. His talent in body cultivation was not that high. It was only after he created the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm killing technique that his soul underwent a qualitative change that allowed his fleshy body to evolve. His soul was strong. It also influenced his fleshy body, and these influences allowed Dongbua Shuang to see the direction he could take to break through and perfect it. The two of them temporarily put down their differences. They continued discussing about their understanding of the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. Amen. Suddenly Dongbua Shuang stopped. He looked afar. What is it? Emperor Summer felt puzzled. It was not convenient for him to forcefully investigate within Feishua City. A guest has arrived. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. A figure condensed in the distance. It was a tall and thin male in white robes. That tall and thin male descended. He bowed respectfully. Jafu greets Monarch Feishua. You are? Dongbua Shuang asked. He could recognize with a glance that this was an expert native of Broken Teeth Mountain Range. But he did not know who he was. After all, he was just an initial emperor. There were many of them in Broken Teeth Mountain Range, and he was not famous. I am an attendant under Supreme Vast Ancient. The tall and thin male chuckled. I am here under the orders of Supreme Vast Ancient to invite Monarch. Supreme Vast Ancient. Dongbua Shuang was startled. I wonder what matter Supreme Vast Ancient has for me. This I do not know. It is Supreme Vast Ancient who ordered me to invite Monarch. The tall and thin male said. Supreme Vast Ancient wishes to see you. Why haven't you gone yet? The Xia Emperor laughed. Fine. Dongbua Shuang nodded. He immediately created a clone, which said to the tall and thin male, Let's go. Let's go see the autarch. He immediately used the Great World Break teleportation technique and arrived at the borders of the vast ancient world. Dongbua Shuang and the tall and thin male, Jafu, appeared. Jafu glanced at the surroundings, then said, Monarch Feishua, please follow me. Supreme Vast Ancient. Dongbua Shuang pondered to himself. He had interacted with the 5 autarchs over the past 200 billion years. This was because he really wanted to comprehend the thousand-eyed water droplet. Most likely, only the 5 autarchs possessed such a supreme treasure that could allow them to enter the Snake-Tooth Corridor. Thus, he went to visit them one by one. The 5 autarchs gave him face, and at the very least, all of them met him. Unfortunately, when he mentioned that he wanted to comprehend the thousand-eyed water droplet without using up any of its energy, and even agreed to leave his clone in the autarch's cavernous state to do so, all 5 autarchs said that they did not have any thousand-eyed water droplets. When he had sought out Supreme Vast Ancient, Supreme Vast Ancient's temper had been quite good, and he had said, I do have a snake-tooth pearl, but I don't have a thousand-eyed water droplet. Throughout history, there have indeed been more snake-tooth pearls than thousand-eyed water droplets. To date, including the one you discovered, Monarch Feishua, there are only 3 publicly known thousand-eyed water droplets, and they have all been used up in the Snake-Tooth Corridor. Swoosh, swoosh, the vast ancient shrine. As one of the 2 autarchs of the natives, Supreme Vast Ancient's influence went without saying. This shrine was heavily guarded with many guards. But Dongbua Shuang was unobstructed throughout his journey. Those guards and even god generals were relatively respectful towards Dongbua Shuang. They knew that this Monarch Feishua was not only powerful in his soul technique, his close combat strength was also ranked in the front amongst god generals. Greetings, Supreme. Dongbua Shuang saw an existence in the distance. He immediately bowed. Monarch Feishua is here. Supreme Vast Ancient sat there looking at the vast void. He pointed to a stone stool by the side. Come sit. Dongbua Shuang walked over and sat down. At this moment, Supreme Vast Ancient had completely concealed his aura. His expression was simple and cold. Being able to conceal his aura meant that he was very polite. Otherwise, if he released his aura, it would be like an incomparably horrifying fireball. Dongbo Shuiying would feel uncomfortable even with his current strength. After all, even though his fleshy body had a breakthrough, allowing him to reach the initial version of the third level of chaotic origin refinement body, he was merely at grand perfection king realm. I wonder why Supreme is looking for me? Dongbo Shuiying asked. Because he no longer had to rush to the sky-floating islands. Usually, he would not leave any avatars in the Broken Tooth Mountain range. If there was anything, he could just ask his subordinates to look for him in Feishua City. I've mentioned before that I have a snake tooth bead. Supreme Vast Ancient said. Yes. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Supreme Vast Ancient flipped his hand, causing two smooth and round black beads to appear in his palm. These two black beads were incomparably deep and serene. It would attract the gaze of others into it. The more one looked at it, the more one would feel that these black beads were like a vast world that was devouring everything. Dongbo Shuiying was naturally able to stabilize his heart with his current strength. But he was still startled. He could not help but ask, 2 snake-tooth beads? Right, 2. Supreme Vast Ancient nodded. I originally had 1 bead. I wasn't in a rush to visit the snake-tooth corridor, since I've been there several times before. I wanted to make sufficient preparations before going again. However, I didn't expect that just a few days ago, when I was exploring some sky-floating islands, I would come across another snake-tooth bead. Congratulations, Supreme Vast Ancient. Dongbo Shuiying said. Some sky-floating islands were indeed filled with great dangers that he could not enter. But Supreme Vast Ancient had a chance to do so. Snake-tooth beads and thousand-eyed water droplets were generally located in extremely dangerous places. I can give you one of these snake-tooth beads. Supreme Vast Ancient looked at Dongbo Shuiying. You're giving me such a supreme treasure for no reason at all? Dongbo Shuiying smiled as he looked at the Supreme Vast Ancient. But in his heart, he began to feel nervous. Who wouldn't want to enter the snake-tooth corridor? Supreme Vast Ancient continued. You must enter the snake-tooth corridor with me. Once inside, you must listen to all of my instructions. Supreme Vast Ancient, please tell me what I need to do. Dongbo Shuiying wasn't angry at all. It would be strange if Supreme Vast Ancient didn't have strict requirements for giving him such a supreme treasure. But no matter what, entering the legendary forbidden area of the snake-tooth corridor was a cause for celebration. Chapter 1272. Emperor Feishua. What you need to do is very simple, Autark Vast Ancient said. Follow me into the snake-tooth corridor. After that, you must listen to my instructions. You cannot act on your own. But don't worry. The snake-tooth corridor is filled with many dangerous areas that require the protection of the snake-tooth pearls. Once the energy within the snake-tooth pearls is used up to a certain point, I'll have to return. If I can't return to the Broken Teeth Mountains before the pearls run out of energy, I won't be able to return. Dongbo Shuiying understood this. The snake-tooth corridor was incredibly dangerous, especially the whirlpools at the entrance and exit. There was no way to resist them on one's own. One had to rely on the power of the snake-tooth pearls or the thousand-eyed water droplets. One had to rely on the power of the snake-tooth pearls to enter and exit. If the snake-tooth pearls ran out of energy on the way out, they would probably lose their lives to the whirlpools of the corridor. That's why I have to return when the snake-tooth pearls have roughly 30% of their energy remaining. Autark Vast Ancient smiled as he looked at Dongbo Shuiying. You, however, are different. You have many clones, and you can continue to roam the snake-tooth corridors until the snake-tooth pearls run out of energy. Even if your clone doesn't return, it won't affect you, right? Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Before I return, you have to listen to my instructions. Once I return, you will be free to roam the corridors, Autark Vast Ancient said. Do you agree to my request? Haha. The Autark is willing to gift me a supreme treasure, like the snake-tooth pearls in exchange for sending a clone to help me. To me, the more the better. Dongbo Shuiying laughed loudly. Autarch Vast Ancient instantly revealed a smile. He felt that Emperor Feishue probably wouldn't refuse. But he was also afraid that Feishue would be too arrogant and unwilling to listen to orders. How many of my clones do I need to enter? Dongbo Shuang asked. A single clone is enough, Autarch Vast Ancient explained. The snake-tooth pearls can only protect a single clone. Understood. Dongbo Shuang nodded. He had countless clones. It was a minor matter if one of his clones dissipated in the snake-tooth corridors. Being able to go in for a trip was exactly what he wished for. Before gifting the snake-tooth bead to Imperial Monarch Feishue, please swear an oath, Imperial Monarch Feishue, Autarch Vast Ancient said. He did not dare to easily trust Dongbo Shuang for such a supreme treasure. All right. Dongbo Shuang was straightforward and immediately swore an oath. Autarch Vast Ancient was in a good mood as well. He knew that cultivators still attached great importance to oaths. Autarch Vast Ancient had long since made his preparations, while Dongbo Shuang had merely sent a clone. There was no need for him to make any preparations at all. On the same day, the two of them set off for the snake-tooth corridor. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them directly arrived near that terrifying black maelstrom in the snake-tooth corridor. The tearing force of the maelstrom was too strong. The rumbling and ripples it produced made Dongbo Ying's heart tremble slightly. Just the sound alone was not enough, but the unseen ripples formed by the maelstrom were able to penetrate through the fleshy body and soul, causing fear to rise in Dongbo Ying's heart. Looking up at that incomparably towering snake head, that was the size of the territory of Southern Cloud Nation. A terrifying chaotic origin life form with strength close to the level of Yuan. Even if it has died for an unknown period of time, its remnant might is still so unfathomable. Terrifying, truly terrifying. Furthermore, the head of an ordinary snake would only occupy a small portion of its body. Even if this chaotic origin life form's body proportions are different from ordinary snakes, the proportion of its body occupied by the snake head should still be small. If the snake head is so huge, how big would its body be? The snake head was as big as the Southern Cloud Nation. How long would its body be? Even though the Summer Wind Ancient Nation seemed huge, much bigger than the Southern Cloud Nation, that was in terms of surface area. In terms of the length of the nation, it was merely a few times bigger. The length of the body of this snake was likely much longer than the territory of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Who is that? Supreme Vast Ancient? Monarch Feishue? There were also observers arranged by the 5 great supremes around the snake-tooth corridor. They soon discovered Dongbo Shuang and Supreme Vast Ancient. One was a supreme, and the other was the famous Monarch Feishue. These observers naturally did not dare to disturb them. Every time I look at it from a close distance, it feels incomparably shocking, Supreme Vast Ancient said. This innate chaotic origin life form has an unfathomably huge body. As for Yuan and other chaotic origin experts, they started off weak and small. Their bodies might be comparable to us, yet they are so strong that they are much stronger than this terrifying chaotic origin life form in front of us. Just thinking about it makes me feel envious. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Go, let us enter, Supreme Vast Ancient said. Don't worry. As we get closer to the snake-tooth corridor, the energy within the snake-tooth bead will naturally be activated. So. The two of them rapidly flew towards the black maelstrom. As they flew closer, Dongbo Shuang felt the snake-tooth bead in his bosom, causing some unique changes. At that moment, the snake-tooth bead began emitting a faint black light. This black light revolved around the surface of Dongbo Ying's body, and the surface of Supreme Vast Ancient's body was similarly covered by a faint black light. They have entered. Supreme Vast Ancient and Monarch Feishue have both entered the snake-tooth corridor. The observers watching from afar were incredibly startled. It was fine for Supreme Vast Ancient to enter, but even Monarch Feishue had entered the snake-tooth corridor? The observers sent by the other 4 supremes immediately transmitted the news to the supremes of the various clans. The news spread. Many supremes received the news. They have all entered. Monarch Feishue has also entered the snake-tooth corridor? Since they entered together, It seems Supreme Vast Ancient has given Monarch Feishua a token of entry. Is Supreme Vast Ancient planning to investigate the consciousness region this time? Supreme Thunder Firmament could not help but frown when he received the news. This vast ancient fellow, he actually has 2 supreme treasures of entry. His luck is truly amazing. The other 4 supremes were all envious. The Snake-Tooth Pearl and the Thousand-Eyed Water Droplet were both very difficult to obtain. Obtaining one was one thing, but obtaining 2 was simply too difficult. Supreme Vast Ancient had a Snake-Tooth Pearl to begin with. He had just wanted to make ample preparations before entering. Who would have thought that during this period of time, Dongbo Shueing would first rise to prominence, and then Supreme Vast Ancient would be lucky enough to obtain a Snake-Tooth Pearl? And so this trip was made possible. The other Supremes could only feel envious. Rumble! Explosions rang out incessantly. As soon as they flew into the vortex of darkness, they were immediately torn apart, unable to control their bodies. All they could do was be swept into the vortex. Fortunately, their bodies were protected by the black light. Although this black light seemed thin, no matter how the outside world tore at it, it was unable to break through. However, Dongbo Shueing could sense that the vast energy contained within the Snake-Tooth Pearl was slowly being consumed. Swoosh! Supreme Vast Ancient and Dongbo Shueing could only follow the devouring force and follow the flow. They rapidly fell into the Snake-Tooth Corridor. As they advanced within the vortex, even space was distorted and shattered. Their speed was incredibly fast. But the interior of this snake's bloody mouth was simply too huge. After all, the entire Snake-Tooth head was comparable to the territory of the Southern Cloud Nation. Just by being swept along, it lasted for an hour before the tearing force of the vortex began decreasing. Very soon, both Supreme Vast Ancient and Dongbo Shueing regained control of their bodies. Are we currently in the mouth of a snake? Dongbo Shueing looked around. With a glance, he saw an enormous snake tooth in the distance. The snake tooth was emitting a terrifying aura. Don't stay here for too long. The wind here is exhausting the energy of the Snake-Tooth Pearl. Supreme Vast Ancient urged, continue forward. Dongbo Shueing nodded. Actually, as the power of the vortex decreased, the consumption of the Snake-Tooth Pearl was much lower. But clearly Supreme Vast Ancient cared about every bit of energy. So. Supreme Vast Ancient brought Dongbo Shueing along as they flew at high speed into the mouth of the snake. They had to fly for a long time before they could fly past an enormous snake tooth. This tooth was taller than the mountains in Realm Heart Great Land. Where are we going? Dongbo Shueing asked. You just have to follow me. You'll know when we reach there. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled. He was clearly familiar with this place. He had been here several times before. Along the way, he was not willing to waste any energy. He brought Dongbo Shueing along at high speed. Chapter 1273. Every snake tooth was as tall as a towering mountain. They emitted an endless austere aura that instilled fear in Dongbo Shueing's heart. This was normal too. The snake teeth were originally the weapons these terrifying chaotic origin lifeforms used against their enemies. Why was the Broken Teeth mountain range named Broken Teeth? It was because there was a broken tooth in this vast mountain range. That was also the tallest mountain peak in Realm Heart Great Land. This Broken Tooth mountain peak was rumored to have injured that tooth of Yuan. That was why Yuan chose to do so. Amen. Dongbo Shueing discovered the transformation too. Under the lead of Supreme Vast Ancient, he flew at high speed. They had already passed by 8 snake teeth. On the left, there were 2 rows of snake teeth. On the right, there were also 2 rows of snake teeth. In other words, there were a total of 4 rows of snake teeth in the mouth of this snake. Currently, only 8 teeth had flown past them. One could see how slow they were. The first 8 teeth are emitting a dark aura that makes others palpitate. And this snake tooth in front of me is giving off an endless feeling of sharpness. Dongbo Shueing watched with bewilderment. Looking afar, there was a towering huge tooth. Further ahead, there was another tooth with a sharper shape. The aura it emitted was entirely different too. As they flew, Dongbo Shuang discovered that the aura of every 8 teeth would change once. Even the shape of some teeth would change. After flying for half a day, he saw more than 80 snake teeth. That is, Dongbo Shuang's eyes brightened. There was a new towering black snake tooth that appeared in the distance. Yet there were many void cracks around it. Tao of void. He sensed it. This newly appeared snake tooth contained the fundamental usage of the Tao of void. Furthermore, it was at a higher level. For a moment, Dongbo Shuang felt an itch in his heart. He wanted to go closer and explore. Monarch Feishue, I know you have reached the final realm in the Tao of void. The nearby autarch vast ancient glanced off into the distance as well. He sent mentally, these 8 snake fangs do indeed contain many mysteries of the Tao of void, as well as many opportunities within them. However, entering them will require the energy of the snake-tooth pearls. You'd better follow me obediently. It won't be too late for you to come back after I return. Don't worry. Since we have an agreement and I have sworn an oath, I will not go back on my word, Dongbo Shuang said. It's good that you understand. Supreme Vast Ancient didn't say anything else. Actually, he understood what the opportunities within Snake Tooth Corridor signified for a cultivator. That was why he intentionally warned them. He could not afford to waste his energy for Dongbo Shuang. 8 void snake fangs. Really? As Dongbo Shuang flew, the more he looked, the more tempted he felt. In fact, even from afar, he could vaguely sense something. Once I'm done accompanying Autarch Vast Ancient, I'll definitely come back to investigate this place. So, the two of them continued flying, not counting the snake fangs that they could not see clearly in the dark vortex. After flying past a total of 120 snake fangs, Dongbo Shuang and the others finally reached a fork in the road. A fork continued forward, and another fork led upwards. Follow this way. The corridor was very wide. It was growing calmer and calmer. Every so often, a wild wind would blow past them, causing the power of the snake-tooth pearls to be slightly depleted. Autarch Vast Ancient and Dongbo Shuang continued to fly upwards, but Dongbo Shuang had a pensive look on his face. He immediately asked, Autarch, when we entered, the power of that dark vortex was simply too terrifying. We were unable to control our bodies, much less fly. All we could do was follow it in. How are we supposed to leave then? There's no way we can go against the vortex and leave, right? Haha. Of course there's no way we can go against the vortex. The vortex is the entrance. We enter through the serpent's mouth. The exit is through the nostrils of the serpent, Autarch Vast Ancient said with a laugh. The serpent's mouth forms a vortex that sucks in air, while its nostrils emit air outwards. It's just that the power of the vortex is obscured by it. So that's how it is. Dongbo Shuang nodded. To Emperor Feishue, there's probably no need for him to leave at all. Autarch Vast Ancient laughed. That is, unless he obtains some sort of unique treasure that he wishes to bring out. The corridors were formed by the serpent's head, and there were many forked paths along the way. But of course many of the nodes were very stable. In fact, there were some places that weren't affected by the winds at all. The power of the snake-tooth pearls wouldn't be depleted at all. As the corridor grew narrower and narrower, Dongbo Shuang couldn't help but ask, where are we going? We're almost there. Autarch Vast Ancient smiled. You'll know soon enough. Don't be too surprised. Surprised? Dongbo Shuang had no choice but to suppress his curiosity. Although the corridor was growing narrower and narrower, it was still more than 100 million kilometers wide. Still, compared to the size of the serpent's head, it was quite thin. In front of them was an enormous blood-colored membrane that blocked their path. Although it was called a blood-colored membrane, it was actually filled with countless streams of light that flowed through it like an enormous waterfall of blood. Let's go through it. Autarch Vast Ancient was rather excited. Swoosh. The two charged straight through the blood-colored membrane. The blood-colored membrane did not obstruct them at all. Instead, a unique energy swept through their bodies. It was very unique. The blood-colored membrane was also very thick. They flew for a few breaths of time before they completely penetrated through it. We're here. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled as he stopped. Shuang looked at the scene in front of him in shock. It was a vast space. Within this space, there were many veins that were emitting warm light. These veins intersected with each other. There were also several hundred huge light lumps scattered within this space. Every light lumps was connected by a vein. Even though the light lumps were huge, there were still differences in size between them. Where is this? Dongbo Shuang felt puzzled. According to the distance they flew, he deduced. Is this the snake brain? The snake brain is much bigger than this space. More accurately speaking, this should be the consciousness of this terrifying chaotic origin life form. Supreme Vast Ancient said. Consciousness? Dongbo Shuang was startled. The consciousness of a life form would always be the most unique. Go, let us first head to the first light lumps. Supreme Vast Ancient was filled with anticipation. He brought Dongbo Shuang along as they continued flying. The veins in the consciousness were even thinner. Even though the two of them were flying through the thickest vein, it was merely 500,000 kilometers wide. The veins had intersecting nodes too. But at the nodes, it was extremely quiet. There was no invasion from the black wind. That's right. Within the consciousness, there were still black winds howling and invading the bodies of Dongbo Shuang and the others. After flying for a moment, only then did Autark Vast Ancient stop at a certain node. He pointed at a ball of light in front of him. I'll wait for you here. Continue forward. Enter that ball of light. I can sense that ball of light calling out to me, drawing me in. But every light lump in the consciousness of the snake has a suppressive force on the soul. Some are strong and some are weak. I can't enter this light lump in front of me. Its level of suppression is comparable to the black leaf lake. I believe you should be able to enter. Oh, Dongbo Shuang was enlightened. The light lump in the consciousness had a suppressive force on the soul? No wonder the other party asked him to come. Remember what you said in the oath. Listen to my orders. Supreme Vast Ancient said. After you enter, bring out everything you can bring out. If you hide anything or don't do your best to bring it out, you will be violating the oath. Supreme Vast Ancient reminded him again. The reason why he gave a snake tooth bead to Dongbo Shuang was for the other party to help him. Alright. Supreme can be rest assured. By then, you can search my body after I come out. Dongbo Shuang chuckled. What a joke. How could some external objects make him violate the oath? Even a chaotic origin weapon was not qualified to make him violate the oath. After all, the moment he violated the oath, his cultivation path would most likely be severed. Hu. Shuang flew along the thinner meridian pathway towards the light ball in front of him. Hu. The black wind was also howling. As it blew on his body, a thin layer of black light easily resisted against it. It's just that the energy in the snake tooth bead was being consumed at an extremely slow pace. Amen. When he was just 500,000 kilometers away, he could already feel a suppressive force on his soul. As he got closer, this suppressive force on his soul rapidly increased. I do want to see what exactly is within this light lump. Dongbo Shuang curiously flew over. Chapter 1274. The pressure is quite strong. Dongbo Shuang advanced through the passageway, the sphere of light growing larger and larger in his field of vision. The pressure emanating from it caused even Dongbo Shuang to feel quite uncomfortable. Autark Vast Ancient stood at the node of the passageway, staring nervously at it. I have to go in. Of the many spheres of light in my sea of consciousness, this one is calling out to me the loudest. He had paid the price of a snake-tooth pearl to allow Dongbo Shuang to enter, and this sphere of light was his primary target. I'm in. A look of delight appeared on Autark Vast Ancient's face. Whoosh! Dongbo Shuang charged headfirst into the enormous sphere of light, entering it. This is a sphere of light. A look of surprise appeared on Dongbo Shuang's face. This sphere of light was billions of kilometers in size, and within it floated a series of solidified fragments of the world. There were 7 of them, each of them resembling enormous pieces of paper, each of which contained a terrifying source of heat. Each of the 7 fragments contained a dazzling, eye-catching object. There was a black dagger. There was a world fragment with the black dagger at the center. There was also a blazing ball of deep blue flame, with the blue flame at the center. Which one should I go to? Dongbo Ying could sense that these fragments were filled with danger. This one with the black dagger. Dongbo Ying instantly made up his mind. This was the only one of the 7 fragments that had a weapon at the center of it. Swoosh! Dongbo Ying flew straight towards the world fragment. As he flew closer, the enormous paper-like world fragment quickly sucked him into it. I'm in. Dongbo Ying felt his vision blur, as he found himself standing atop an enormous wasteland. The wasteland was filled with countless black armored soldiers, and in the very center of the wasteland was a towering throne. Seated atop the throne was a black armored, caped figure who was toying with a black dagger in his hands. His gaze was fixed on Dongbo Ying from afar, causing Dongbo Ying to feel a stifling pressure. Kill! All of the black armored soldiers were originally standing still like statues, but when Dongbo Ying descended, all of them turned to look at Dongbo Ying. Like a tidal wave, the black armored soldiers all turned into streams of light and attacked. The light rays shrouded the sky, surrounding Dongbo Ying from all directions. Destroy! Standing on the desolate plains, facing countless black armored soldiers, Dongbo Ying instantly unleashed a mirage and illusory realm killer move. Bang! The illusion instantly enveloped every corner of the world fragment, including the throne. The illusory realm attacked the black armored soldiers one by one, and the effect of this move was extremely good. Countless black armored soldiers dissipated like bubbles, and in a short period of time, other than Dongbo Ying, there were only 13 figures left. Apart from the black armored and cloaked figure sitting on the throne, there were 12 taller black armored generals who were still in good condition. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. These 12 were able to resist the illusions and were clearly much stronger. Bang bang bang. All of them attacked with daggers, and their attacks were strange and unfathomable, even surpassing Dongbo Ying's understanding. His defensive methods were completely useless. Those daggers were like phantoms that pierced through his defenses and directly attacked his body. However, the black light protecting his body tenaciously blocked these attacks. I'm afraid that even if a sovereign came, he would not be able to resist them with his own strength. Dongbo Ying's expression changed slightly. Right at this moment, Dongbo Ying was shocked to discover that countless black armored soldiers had appeared on the desolate plains far away. They appeared again after being destroyed. Dongbo Ying quickly used his movement technique. The movement techniques of Void Dao experts were also incredible. The attacks of the 12 black armored generals were clearly strange and powerful, but their movement techniques were very clumsy. Dongbo Ying executed his illusions, sweeping through the countless black armored soldiers. At the same time, he used his movement technique to pounce towards the black armored figure on the throne. After all, his target was the black dagger that the black armored figure was playing with. That dagger was emitting a majestic energy, and it should be the origin of this world fragment. South, the black armored soldiers dissipated like bubbles, and were soon reborn. And those black armored generals were constantly being shaken off by Dongbo Ying. Dongbo Ying relied on the black light protecting his body to forcefully block them. Hand it over. Dongbo Ying charged towards the throne. His figure was like a specter as a myriad of figures appeared. Every figure was real, just that they existed on a different plane of space. The myriad of figures pounced towards the throne at the same time. Boom! The black armored figure played with the dagger. Finally, he laughed coldly as he brandished the black dagger in his hand. Sila! A dagger slashed across Dongbo Ying. Boom! Dongbo Ying only felt his consciousness rumble. By the time he woke up, he discovered that his body was already outside the world fragment. That strike had blasted him out. I'm out! Dongbo Ying sensed for a moment, and his expression changed. That strike actually consumed so much of my snake-tooth bead's energy? Although that strike with the dagger had saved his life by relying on the black light protecting his body, it had consumed an enormous amount of energy. It was roughly 1% of the snake-tooth bead's energy. He looked at the world fragment in front of him, The world fragment was still a blur. The only thing he could see was the most dazzling source of the world fragment, that black dagger. As for those soldiers, generals and black-armored figures, they could not be seen clearly from the outside world. What's going on with those soldiers? Why are they still reborn after being killed so many times? That black-armored figure is also ridiculously strong. Dong Shuang muttered to himself. But before he entered, Supreme Vast Ancient had reminded him that anything could happen within the world of light in his sea of consciousness. As long as he, Dong Shuang, could successfully bring the item out, it would be a huge success. Let's enter again. Dong Shuang attempted to enter the world fragment of the black dagger once more. Rumble. After entering the world fragment, he once more descended upon the desolate plains. What appeared before him was still the same countless black-armored soldiers, as well as the black-armored figure who was fiddling with the black dagger on the distant mountain throne. It was as though nothing had changed. The gazes of all the figures landed on Dong Shuang. Clearly, they were about to launch another attack. Let's go. Dong Shuang chose to give up without hesitation. Given his attainments in the Tao of space, he was able to easily leave this world fragment. The world fragment of the black dagger is too dangerous. Dong Shuang glanced at the other 6 world fragments. His gaze landed on one of the enormous world fragments. The source of this world fragment was a fiery red feather. Dong Shuang guessed that it would be relatively easier. He made his decision based purely on instinct. South, he directly flew towards the world fragment of the fiery feather, and was once again absorbed into it. This was also a world fragment. The borders of the world were filled with nothingness, and in the center of the world was a gigantic tree. At the top of the tree floated a fiery red feather, and 3 birds were circling around it. On top of the gigantic tree, there were also a large number of birds resting. Similarly, the moment Dong Shuang entered the world fragment, all the birds turned their heads to look at Dong Shuang. Their eyes were filled with savagery and rage. In an instant, an ear-piercing screech rang out. Formless ripples spread out, causing the black radiance on the surface of Dong Shuang's body to tremble slightly. At the same time, the energy of the snake-tooth bead was also being depleted. Destroy. Shuang immediately unleashed his mirage and illusory realm, directly enveloping this broken world. At that moment, the birds on that huge tree all dissipated with a pu sound under the illusory realm, leaving behind only the 3 birds that were clearly stronger than the other 3 flying around the fiery red feather. There are only 3 birds left, and there's no one controlling this feather? From the looks of it, it seems to be slightly easier than the black dagger's world fragment. Dong Shuang muttered to himself. At the very least, there were a total of 13 existences in that world fragment that could still exist under his illusory realm. This world fragment seemed to be slightly weaker. Chapter 1275. Only 3 flying beasts circling around the fiery red feather were left. The 3 flying beasts stopped and stared at Dong Shuang. Among them, the largest green flying beast let out an ear-piercing screech. Screech! Ripples that could be seen with the naked eye swept out in the direction of Ying in a fan shape. They were rapidly expanding, and in a blink of an eye, they had swept across about 20% to 30% of this world fragment. Naturally, Ying was also affected. Even though the black protective light around his body isolated the ripples, just hearing the sound was unbearable. South. South, the other 2 flying beasts turned into streams of light and charged over. The large green flying beast stopped beside the fiery red feather to protect it. Pung pung. The flying speed of these 2 birds was unfathomably fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived right in front of Ying. Ying did not have the time to evade before he was slapped by the birds and sent flying far away. At the same time, Ying's body immediately turned into a myriad of figures. He began executing his Tao of Void techniques to confuse his opponents. These 2 flying beasts continued to attack. They swept past all the figures and left none alive. Even though they were very fast, The thousands of figures were enough for Dongbo Shuiying to dodge and execute some confusing techniques. Their techniques are very powerful, but they seem very stupid, Dongbo Shuiying thought. Previously, his opponents in the Black Dagger World fragment were also very stupid. If he did not go, they would be like statues. Their attacks were also the same. South Dongbo Shuiying rapidly flew towards the fiery red feather. Those two flying beasts seemed to have woken up. They flashed and returned to the fiery red feather. They worked together with the large green flying beast to surround the fiery red feather and defend against all enemies. Bang bang bang. Both sides clashed. Dongbo Shuiying relied on the prowess of the black protective light and tried to snatch the fiery red feather time and time again. As for the three flying beasts, they only needed to move within a small area. Although their attacks were clumsy, they were able to disrupt Dongbo Shuiying's attacks. Try to confuse and divide them. Dongbo Shuiying's heart ached. Every time it collided with his snake-tooth bead, he would either split into mini clones, teleport through the void, or even cast Mirage and Illusory Realm killer moves at the same time. After doing this hundreds of times, his arm expanded, and he managed to grab hold of that fiery red feather. The moment he grabbed the feather, the broken world suddenly began to distort. It was as if a stone had been thrown into a calm lake, causing it to tremble. Along with the tremors, the fragmented world suddenly disappeared completely without a sound. It was like a dream. He disappeared just like that, without a trace. Dongbo Shuiying stood in the void, holding the fiery red feather in his hand, as he looked at the other 6 floating world fragments. The world fragment is gone just like that. Dongbo Shuiying mumbled to himself. What are those birds? Are they illusions? No, it can hurt me. Boom! Just as he was pondering, there was an invisible force within the light orb dimension that directly repelled Dongbo Shuiying's body, repelling him out. Dongbo Shuiying's body swayed as he stabilized himself and landed on the meridian pathway. Ha ha ha, I'm out. Monarch Feishua, hurry, come to me. Far away, at the node of the meridian pathway, Supreme Vast Ancient saw Dongbo Shuiying coming out. Especially when he saw the fiery red feather in Dongbo Shuiying's hand, his eyes instantly lit up. He was incomparably excited as he hurriedly called out. When Dongbo Shuiying heard it, he immediately flew towards Supreme Vast Ancient. Supreme, what's going on with this light orb dimension? Why is it so strange? Dongbo Shuiying was extremely puzzled. At the same time, he lowered his head to look at the fiery red feather in his hand. The temperature of this fiery red feather was extremely terrifying. Fortunately, his body was protected by the black light. Hurry, give it to me, Supreme Vast Ancient urged. Here. Dongbo Shuiying handed the feather over. Autark Vast Ancient accepted it, then carefully controlled the flow of the black light around his body to reveal his right hand. His right hand was completely unprotected, and he gently grabbed the fiery red feather. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Although the fiery red feather was extremely hot, Autark Vast Ancient's right hand was completely red and surrounded by flames. His right hand, however, was completely unharmed. Good, very good. What sort of majestic power is this? Supreme Vast Ancient was incomparably excited. The power of fire. Dongbo Shuiying watched from the side. He didn't train in the Tao of Fire, and although the auras of the black dagger and the fiery red feather in the light orb dimension were extremely mysterious and unfathomable, Dongbo Shuiying could tell that they were most likely related to the Tao of Fire. Clearly, Supreme Vast Ancient was extremely excited and delighted. Supreme Vast Ancient waved his hand, placing the fiery red feather into his robes. He then smiled as he looked at Dongbo Shuiying. Monarch Feishua, it's all thanks to you this time. If it were me, I wouldn't have been able to enter at all. Who would have thought that you would actually succeed in getting it? What exactly is the situation within the light orb dimension? Dongbo Shuiying asked. Why is it so strange? I've faced some opponents who would be reborn after being destroyed. They might seem illusory, yet they are incredibly strong. I can't say for sure either. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled. But you should know about the Sea of Consciousness. Usually, our souls would cultivate within the sea of consciousness. And this huge snake is an incomparably terrifying chaotic origin life form. Its sea of consciousness is even more unique and strange. It's just that it has already fallen, and its soul dissipated. Nevertheless, this sea of consciousness is still incredibly mysterious. Sometimes it would hide some tangible items. At other times, there might even be some memory fragments. Dongbo Shuang nodded. But as long as you get any item within the light orb dimension, you will be expelled out. You can't enter the same light orb dimension anymore. Supreme Vast Ancient said. I guess this should be a rule set by Yuan, forbidding us from taking more. Amen. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Previously in that dimension, he vaguely felt that the strangest thing was that black dagger. It's a pity that the difficulty of obtaining it was too high. After all, that black armored caped figure had directly grabbed hold of the black dagger and easily forced him out of the world fragment with a single strike. But Supreme, Dongbo Shuang said, only after I entered did I discover that encountering danger within the light orb dimension would rapidly consume the energy of my snake-tooth bead. You are waiting at the node while I'm risking my life inside? I would consume the energy of my snake-tooth bead even faster. Who knows, by the time you return, the energy of my snake-tooth bead would have been completely consumed. That way, I wouldn't be able to explore the places I wish to go. Isn't this slightly unfair? The vow had been set. Even if Supreme Vast Ancient did not return, he would still have to listen to his orders. But since he could talk, he would naturally have to do so. Supreme Vast Ancient was startled. He laughed out loud. Rest assured, you have already helped me obtain an important item. As long as you succeed in obtaining 2 more items, you can move freely. There's no need to care about me anymore. He was already very satisfied with obtaining 1 item. If he could obtain 3, that would be worth celebrating. Moreover, Supreme Vast Ancient also knew that entering the light orb dimension was not easy, as it would suppress one's soul. It was even harder to obtain items within it. In fact, some of the light orb dimensions didn't have any items at all, just some memory fragments. Very well. Dongbo Shuang nodded, a smile on his face. After obtaining 3 items, the Supreme Vast Ancient would allow him to move freely. That meant that he would abide by the oath and listen to the instructions of Supreme Vast Ancient. Come, let's go to the next location. Supreme Vast Ancient smiled. He had already made arrangements. They would go to the light orb dimensions one by one in order of importance. The two flew along the glowing vein-like pathways, passing through one node after another. These vein-like pathways crisscrossed, leading to the various light orb dimensions. Just as the two were flying, I failed again. Damn it. A rather angry voice rang out as an azure-robed figure flew out of a light orb dimension, a cold look on his face. Clearly, he had come out empty-handed and was very disappointed. Dongbo Shuang and Supreme Vast Ancient, who had been flying, were both startled. They turned to look. The azure-robed figure seemed to sense something as well, and he turned to look as well. Their gazes intersected. Supreme Vast Ancient Monarch Fei Xue? The azure-robed figure was stunned at this moment. Great Emperor North River? Dongbo Shuang was slightly stunned too. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.